Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. Yes, Larry Sharpe is here right now. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast. You might say, Larry, yet again, I see you. You are not wearing your Larry Sharpe for Governor shirt. That's correct. Why? Because yet again, it's debate time. It was debate time last week when I was dealing with the Democrats. Now I am dealing with the Republicans. They had their debate last night. So Democrats had their debate last week. The Republicans had theirs last night. And this is, of course, for the New York State governor's run. And you might say, well, Larry, why does this matter? Well, it kind of doesn't, because whoever wins Republican nomination is just going to lose to Kathy Hochul by 20 points, or 30 points. I mean, who knows how many points, but that's okay. They will at least be able to fool others into believing they can win and steal their money. So that's the one thing. They'll be able to steal their money and pay their consultants. That they'll be able to do before they inevitably in November lose by 20 or 30 points. So I think that is why it matters, I guess. And it's kind of entertaining, I think, a little bit, kind of. So there's something there. If you know this is going to be fun, because it will be fun, do me a favor then, like, comment, and share so other people can see this. It does matter. And of course, as you hear me say every single time, please support my sponsor, libertarianism.com. Head on over there, sign up, share that link, take the courses, watch the videos, and you know what happens? You can get cool merch. Yes, you can. Great merch, good classes. People who are concerned about what libertarianism is, send them there to libertarianism.com. So let me see if I can get into it. It's the same group of people, which is CBS. They did last time's 2018's, and now they're doing this time again. They did it. They ignored me last time. Damn you guys. But now the Republicans are here.
We want to thank the candidates for being here. Rob Astorino, Harry Wilson, Representative Lee Zeldin, and Andrew Giuliani. And a note, because of the vaccination requirements in this building, Mr. Giuliani is participating in the debate remotely from a studio nearby.
Now look at that. He is in a studio nearby because they had vax mandates to get to the debate stage. Now, what I like about this and what I don't like about this, it's kind of cheesy that he's there remotely. It is. However, look, clearly I'm running for governor, so you should vote for me. However, I always try to give people, credit where credit is due. Giuliani not showing up, that's pretty cool. I mean, he's like, you know what? I don't care. He's walking the walk. He literally said he would miss the debate. And then I guess they wanted him here because, as I tell you always, see, many of you think I'm making this up. Debates are not about who should be or telling people stuff. Debates about one thing only: ad revenue. That's what it's about. And if Giuliani isn't there, a lot of people wouldn't watch. For those of you who are not New Yorkers or even know New York City, while across the state, without question, across the state, the most popular of the four is Lee Zeldin. He has the most money. He's a congressman. He's got, $12 million he's raised, whatever. He's got tons of money, commercials. He's the most popular across the state. Nipping at his heels is Harry Wilson, because Harry Wilson is a millionaire. That's the guy second from the left. He's a gazillionaire, so he just spends his own money. But Giuliani in New York City is super popular. And you may say, Larry, I mean, come on, New York City, it's 6-1 Democrat Republican. Yes, but there's 8 million New Yorkers in New York City. So even if there's only, a small percentage of Republicans by percentage, that's still like 500,000 Republicans in New York City who love Andrew's father, Rudy Giuliani, and therefore by default are connected to him. So he is a very popular candidate in New York City for New York City Republicans. So yeah, they wanted him. And because they knew they'd lose ad revenue, they put him there. You're going, wait a minute, Larry, you're right. Yeah, it's about ad revenue. That's all it's about. And there is more proof. So anyway, props to Giuliani for that. I am, talking the talk, walking the walk. Andrew goes, Giuliani's also mayor, Giuliani's son. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And then John says, Andrew is at least principled. Yeah, I'll give him that, right? I will. 100% credit where credit's due.
We also want to tell you, we want to thank our partners, News Radio 880, for co-sponsoring tonight's debate. Before we begin, a few rules to mention. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to our questions.
Because 1 minute is enough to solve all the problems of New York.
There will be rebuttals. when deemed necessary. And candidates, we are asking you to please respect the time limits. We will turn off the microphones if they are exceeded.
Okay,
with that,
show
let's
me.
get right
Here
to
we
the
go.
questions. And the first one is for Mr. Giuliani.
Giuliani.
Hearings are underway, as you know, sir, in Washington on the attack on the Capitol in January of 2000.
Critical. They started with the most important thing for New Yorkers, January 6th, because every New Yorker right now is worried about January 6th. So well done, CBS 2. I'm clearly kidding, but of course it's where they start. Of course they do.
2021. What, if any, role do you think former President Trump played in the riot? And do you believe Donald Trump should run for president in 2024?
Because what New Yorkers care about, without question, is do you think that Donald Trump should run for president? Now, to be clear, there actually are New Yorkers who care about this, but they're not for the reason you would think. If you're a Democrat in New York State and you hate Democrats, you want them all to say yes, so you can validate your hatred of Republicans, right? That's how Democrats in New York State think. Oh, Trump is the evilest thing ever in the history of mankind. So if these guys don't like Trump, well, good. I am completely validated in never voting for you and literally voting for anyone over you. And the moderators know that. So they asked this question, forcing each of these guys to somehow support Trump, realize that, oh, there's no way Democrats in New York State will vote for them. This is a setup. Of course it is.
Well, first and foremost, let me thank all the New Yorkers for tuning in tonight. And I also want to thank all the New Yorkers for all the support that I've heard over the last 48 hours.
It's true.
You know, I was very honored, Maurice, to work 4 years in President Trump's White House.
Here we go.
I've known him for over 20 years. I consider him a good friend. And I would certainly support him if he decided to run for president. You know, the media has been fixated on January 6th for the better part of a year and a half now. And I would like to see a congressional hearing on the 274 riots that happened.
Right into whataboutism. Well done. This is good stuff. And see, this is the thing you had to realize. They're running a primary. If you remember when the Democrats ran, right? When I was doing a Democrat one, and they were talking about paying for abortions in New York State. And the two moderates kind of dodged it. And Giuliani was like, nope, do it. Yes, absolutely. Then they were like, well, oh, right. We're doing a primary. Right. Not general election. Yeah, do all the stuff. The Republicans, I think most of them, not all, they know they're in a primary. Giuliani knows he's in a primary. He's giving them the primary answers.
Happened between May of 2020 and January 5th of 2021, rather than just one day where the media is completely focused on. I think President Trump was a great president, and honestly, I'm hopeful that he runs again. I would be honored in any capacity, certainly as governor of New York.
Oh, he wants to be back. He wants to be back on the Trump train again. Now that's smart. That's smart. I'm like enjoy. He's like, yeah, Trump might win. I'm not going to win this governor thing because there's no way Republicans can win this thing. But like, you need like a secretary of this, a secretary of that. Hey, Trump, I'm open.
To work with a president that was as effective as he was. And that's the kind of change that he brought to the United States of America that we need to bring to New York.
Same question, Mr. Zeldin.
President Trump told his supporters to go peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. And if President Trump wants to run, he should run. And I believe that he'll be the Republican nominee and he'll win. Now, never Trumper Harry Wilson, who's here.
Oh, now he comes out swinging. See, Zeldin knows that Zeldin's mad. Zeldin's mad. For you guys don't know, the guy next to him, Harry Wilson, has been spending tons of money on hit pieces all about Zeldin. I mean, hit piece after hit piece. He's like Cuomo clone, loves Cuomo clone, hammering Zeldin. Zeldin's pissed. This isn't an act. Zeldin's actually mad. So he's like, never Trumper Harry Wilson. Wow. Now I want you to think to yourself, all of you New Yorkers who are watching this, if you live in New York and you know all the cities of New York, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, New York City, Ithaca, what Democrat's going to vote for that guy? There's not one in this state. All right, maybe there's like 5. There's 5 Democrats in this state out of probably, 6 million registered. There's like 9 who would vote for that guy. That's it.
Refused to vote for Donald Trump in the 2020 election against Joe Biden. Look how we are now as a nation.
So it is literally Harry Wilson's fault that the nation is falling apart. Lee Zeldin, Lee, no hyperbole Zeldin right there. And using the never Trumper as an insult. Like, that's an insult here. If they had said that in a Democratic, primary, oh my God, never Trumper. That's, oh, great. Oh my God, that's like an awesome thing to say. It's a compliment. Here, insult.
I believe that we're battling for the heart and soul of our country. And it's not just the Democrats, but it's the rhinos like Harry Wilson who are out there making sure that we have this moment in time with
Mr. I didn't vote for the SAFE Act. Mr. I was absent of the SAFE Act. I support the SAFE Act. He's calling Harry Wilson a rhino. I mean, well, Wilson is a rhino, but still.
One-party Democratic rule in Washington, D.C. As far as what we're seeing with these hearings, Nancy Pelosi wouldn't even allow Republicans to pick their members to be on this committee.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's important for us to be focusing on the illegal immigrants coming across our southern border, the fentanyl that's coming across, the human trafficking, the labor trafficking.
He was asking if he'd vote for Trump. He said, let me attack Wilson and do national stuff.
The drug trafficking, our nation's foreign policy, the supply chain crisis, inflation.
Okay, aren't you running for governor, or are you still a congressman?
It is important for us to be focusing on the issues that Americans are saying are the most important issues to them.
January 6th.
That's where Congress should be spending their time right now.
Mr. Zeldin, thank you.
We're not talking about Congress. See?
Wilson,
he's not going to win. He's worried about running for Congress.
Any role do you think former President Trump played in the riot, and do you believe he should run for president in 2024?
So, Mr. DeWall, I'm going to answer your question. I'm also going to respond to Mr. Zeldin's dishonest attacks. So, first, I believe people have responsibility for their own actions. That people who broke the law should be prosecuted to the fullest extent in any illegal activity, and they have responsibility for.
Does that apply to Mr. Trump?
No, the people who broke the law by invading the Capitol. Mr. Trump did not invade the Capitol. So the people who broke the law by invading the Capitol should be prosecuted.
Now, what you hear, why Harry's in trouble here, because Harry clearly does not like Trump. He calls him Mr. Trump, not President Trump. Everyone else calls him President Trump, greatest president. He's like, whatever. He's put these people in jail, whatever. And so, you could tell he's not doing it. He's in trouble. How are you going to win a Republican primary, when you don't have an answer to Trump? You either have to. The only way you have any chance of winning is if you hammer Trump. This is a Republican primary, or you support him. Wishy-washy's not going to work here.
That's where the responsibility lies. The people actually broke the law. If Mr. Trump chooses to run for president in 2024, I do believe he'll be the nominee, and he'll make that decision in due time. Now, Mr. Zeldin is going to go.
So, said nothing. You can't dodge a Trump question. That's not going to work, Harry. Look, there's only two ways, if you're a Republican, of handling this issue. Number one, you say Trump, Trump, Trump. Or number two, you go, Trump didn't go far enough. That also works.
On to a series of attacks. You saw him even before I had a chance to speak, just like he started attacking me before I ran my campaign. It's because he's scared, because he's a broken candidate. Now, let's look at the...
Well, that's true. Zeldin is broken. And by the way, becoming broke, too. That is true.
I am a Reagan conservative. I have been one since I was a little kid. My dog is named Dutch Reagan. My daughter's middle name is Reagan. Okay, I have fought for conservative principles my whole life.
Like Reagan.
From a college Republican to running for state controller when I was a 2010 nominee, and I won more votes and got closest to winning statewide than any Republican in the last 20 years, running on the most fiscally conservative.
Because no Republican has won any statewide election in this state in 20 years. You're the closest, and you still got spanked. Not happening, guys. Not happening.
Platform in my lifetime. That is not what Mr. Zeldin is trying to do. Why is he doing this? Because he will do anything and say anything to distract from his terrible record as a Cuomo clone, which defines his time in Albany.
Thank you,
Never Trumper, Cuomo clone.
Mr. Astorino, what, if any, role do you think former President Trump played in the riot? Do you believe he should run for president in 2024?
Well, look, January 6th was a horrible day.
Look, the funny thing about Astorino is I actually like Astorino. I mean, as a person, I actually like Astorino. He's out of his league here. I'm just being forward. Rob, if you're watching, I hope you're watching. You're out of your league here. You're like being regular, right? You got Giuliani yelling, I'm not showing him because of X, Trump, Trump, Trump. And these two guys going at it, never Trumper and Cuomo clone. You're sitting on the sideline, man. This is not going to work.
In our nation's history, it was horrible to watch, and it's a stain on our country. I do think he bears some responsibility. I think most people would say that, look, we've got to move on, though. I mean, these hearings right now are complete and utter political theater in Washington, D.C. And what I think should happen is we need to start looking towards 2022 this year. That's why I'm running for governor. Our state is in a crisis right now. Our country is an utter mess with President Biden. And what happens in 2024, the party will.
Okay, it's not about Biden. You running for governor. Are you? You hear me say this all the time, right? And you think I'm joking. Remember when you watch a Democratic primary, right? What did I say? Democrats, the party of bad ideas. Yes, every idea Democrats came out was terrible, terrible ideas. What are Republicans? The party of no ideas. They're like, Trump is great, or I named my dog Reagan, and that's it.
Figure that out, whether President Trump wants to run or not. But we've got great candidates if he doesn't run, in Ron DeSantis, and I can go down through the whole list. So for me, I'm running for governor because this state is a mess. And yes, Lee Zeldin had his time in Albany when he was in the Senate majority under Dean Skelos. And
look at Harry's like, yeah, look at Julian out in the back going, yeah, go get him. Go get Zeldin. Zeldin don't know how to handle it. He's mad. He's caught in a crossfire.
Yes.
He's mad.
He sided with Andrew Cuomo. He was a reliable vote for Andrew Cuomo the entire time. So he did have his chance, and he blew it. And that's another reason why I'm running, because I ran in 14, and everything has just gotten worse.
I remember 14. I met him.
The Supreme Court is poised.
Can I rebut?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Notice that Never Trumper Harry Wilson didn't deny the fact that he refused to vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. Now, as far as what we're seeing with these constant lies from Never Trumper Wilson and
Never Trumper Wilson,
Rob, is that
and Rolex Rob, nicely done. Never Trumper Harry Wilson and Rolex Rob. Oh, nicely done. Because Rob Astorino tried to head down to Wall Street. This is a true story. Tried to head down to Wall Street to become a banker. That didn't go so well. That's why he's back on the stage. So yeah, he's back on the stage.
That I had supported Andrew Cuomo. I actually endorsed the Republican against Andrew Cuomo every time in 2010, 2014, 2018, and led the call for his prosecution. But what's really ironic is that Rolex Rob, I actually supported him. I brought him into my area. I helped introduce him to voters, but he wants to be governor. Listen, he's on a losing streak. He has now lost 3 consecutive races for 3 different offices.
Man, you Republicans, you better than Democrats. Like Giuliani was doing some punching in Hochul. He was doing a little bit in the Democrats. You guys came out swinging, boom, boom, name calling, loser. Oh man, this is a better one.
Say anything he possibly can for votes. The Cuomo attack is ridiculous, and I supported him against Cuomo in 2014.
Okay, we're going to move on. Mr. Astorino, you get the next question.
Okay, good.
The Supreme Court is poised to overturn New York's gun permit law, but there are some who are hoping that the court will allow the state to consider banning guns from so-called sensitive areas, even Times Square, supermarkets, churches, things like that.
This is actually a New York State question. That's good. I mean, this is a real New York State question, not Trump and January 6th. This is actually a good question. I like this one. Well done, guys. Good question.
If you're elected governor, would you introduce and support a sensitive areas bill? And if you did, what places do you think people should be able to
sensitive
post
areas
a no
bill.
handguns allowed sign?
So would you accept sensitive area gun-free zones?
Well, we have gun-free zones right now. They don't work at all because we're looking at something, and I think we need to change the debate a little bit here, from gun control to criminal control. Right now, it's the criminals who get away with everything, okay? And it's the law-abiding New Yorkers who have a Second Amendment right to own a weapon for self-defense who are being targeted all the time. We have a district attorney right now in Manhattan, Alvin Bragg, who should be fired. I mean, he is refusing to...
Didn't answer the question at all. Would you sponsor the bill? Dodge, 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 because that's what they do. All of these are personal attacks. Personal attacks on Joe Biden. Personal attacks on, as you've heard me say, Democrats, bad ideas. Republicans, no ideas.
Prosecute crimes. And the biggest problem is they drop criminal charges when somebody is arrested with an illegal possession of a weapon. That should never be. We should actually add charges and penalties to gun crimes.
This guy supports the Second Amendment. Let's start adding stuff.
We've got a parole board right now that has released 20 cop killers in the last 2 years under Hochul. They should all be fired. We got to get back to actually what worked. Broken windows policy, stop, question, and frisk. The majority of these gun crimes are in a small area, concentrated area.
Yeah. So literally, Astorino's going, you know what we should do? Go to stop and frisk in these small, concentrated areas filled with poor people, brown and black people. Man, Democrats want to beat up brown and black people. Republicans too. I guess he's a bit more open about it, at least. Democrats were kind of sneaky on it.
That's where we got to target to get illegal guns off the street.
Astorino,
What
your
could go
time is
wrong
up.
with
Mr.
stop
Wilson?
and frisk in POC
Short
areas?
question.
Sure, I agree with that. I think the problem is we have a broken debate on this issue. I've been a staunch defender of the Second Amendment my whole life. I started shooting when I was 8 years old. I'm a gun owner today. I have never had a problem, and nor will I ever have a problem. The problem is with people,
also a
not
millionaire,
with
so.
law-abiding citizens, but with criminals, the
saying.
mentally ill, and the purveyors of hate. And those are the people we should be cracking down and
Did not
focusing
answer the
on.
question.
And instead of doing the hard work of that, the Democrats in Albany are blaming and attacking the rights of
He's
law-abiding
right.
citizens.
That's
So
correct.
in my 14-page crime plan, we are focused on taking away
14-page
illegal
crime
guns
plan.
and dealing with
I just
harmful
reading.
criminals. We need to focus on the mentally ill. And for example, on the purveyors of hate.
Now I know you're finished, Harry. You got a 14-page crime plan. You're a Republican. That's not going to work.
The governor had a task force that was formed 2 years ago. She did not even make her appointments made to the task force until after the tragedy.
So you're
of
for
Buffalo.
her task
And
force?
so that is the problem, is ineffective government not dealing with the core problem rather than blaming the citizens who are law-abiding.
Mr. Zeldin.
Gun-free zones don't work. It actually becomes a target for innocent civilians to be attacked because the person who is carrying out the offense knows that they're going to encounter less resistance.
Zeldin, I'm usually not impressed by you. Okay. That's some good stuff right there, brother. Okay. I'm going to give you credit where credit is due. He came out swinging the right way. I like that. Okay. Didn't
We should
dodge.
repeal the unconstitutional SAFE Act. We should change the law in New York from may issue to shall issue.
You stole that from me. Oh, you thief. Every single time I run, you Republicans steal my stuff. I'm the one who's been saying change it from may to shall since 2018. Stole my stuff. Your team's watching my stuff.
Supreme Court should overturn New York State's concealed carry law. We have the strictest gun control laws in the entire country.
Not wrong.
They've gone too far as it is. They target law-abiding citizens. I believe that it is, and I'm somebody who is an A-rated lifetime NRA member. I'm the
Well, that's
endorsed
bad.
NRA candidate in this race.
Well, that's
I'm
bad.
endorsed by the president.
Gun Owners of America, not NRA. Not NRA. GOA. GOA is the real deal. NRA is just Republican hack stuff. So, no.
In the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, I'm endorsed by the chairman of the board of Scope. We need
Scope, garbage. Nope. Just Republican hacks.
to be protecting
Republican
and
hacks.
defending the rights of law-abiding gun owners. We should repeal cashless bail. We should fire DAs like Alvin
Repeal cashless bail. She's talking about gun-free zone. None of you. All right, fine.
Bragg, who refused to enforce the law. Never Trumper Harry Wilson donated to the campaign of liberal Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
That's how that happened. Someone told me, I was at an event upstate, and someone said, Larry, I heard a rumor that you donated to Alvin Bragg's campaign. And I said, you heard that? She went, yes, that's amazing. She was just, oh, no, but if the lies are starting, that means they're scared. That's good. I mean, I hope I hear the lies. That means I'm doing well. But it wasn't a lie. It was they thought I was Harry Wilson. Not as good.
We should overhaul the parole board.
Your time is up.
Because
Mr.
the yellow
Giuliani,
light
same
was-
question. I'm sorry?
Sounds like I'm missing some fireworks over there, but I have to tell you, when I think about the Second Amendment and I think
Tell
about
me.
this debate and I think about what Governor Hochul has done, she has continued to encroach on New Yorkers' Second Amendment rights rather than empowering the police. Look, Marcia, we need to end this war on our police. I heard one of the other candidates.
So should we have gun-free zones? Man, I love cops. I'm not sure that. I mean, there's probably a space for when you love the cops, but not even close. None of them answer the question. Again, remember, they don't have ideas. Now I'm gonna give Zeldin. Zeldin came out with the right stuff, and he at least kind of said no, but didn't say no. They didn't commit to anything.
Invoke broken windows, invoke stop, question, and frisk.
Stop and frisk. What
utilize
could go
programs
wrong?
to take New York City
You know what we should do? Why don't we, we should stop and frisk. Why don't we ask him like Eric Garner? Oh, we can't because he's dead. We can't ask you like that, but it's fine.
specifically, and that we can do for the state from 2,000 murders a year in the early 90s to
Yeah.
less than 600 murders a year just 5 short years later,
So, Mr.
and then less
Giuliani,
than
are you-
300 murders a year.
Are you saying we should go back to the programs that your father instituted, broken windows and stop, question, and frisk?
Yes, I am, Marcia, clearly. And I look at it this way. When you look at when stop, question, and frisk in the late 90s, when we were between 70 and 100,000 stops a year, every single year the Justice Department ruled it constitutional. You know who did that as Deputy Attorney General? Eric Holder, believe it or not. It's when the quota
good
system
punch.
came in the 2010s.
Good
when we were
punch.
stopping 700.
Yeah, but the thing I got to tell you, the Giuliani piece that I like is, I mean, he doesn't have the answers either. But however, what I like about Giuliani is This guy is not ashamed of who he is, where he's from. He's like, that's me. That's who I am. Yes, it was good. Vote for me. This is what you're getting. That I think he's saying what he actually feels. He's not like making stuff up for the camera. This is Andrew. If you asked him this question, if you on the street, he would tell you this. Out here, he would tell you this. I think he's actually, this is who he is.
1,000 people a year.
Your time is up,
It might
Mr.
have gotten out of
Giuliani.
control. So we absolutely need to end this war on cops and allow proactive policing
Thank
again.
you.
Mr.
That's so should you have gun-free zones? Cashless bail, and I love cops and everything that. Yeah.
Astorino wants to rebut.
Well, I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and if I walked into the Bronx from Yonkers, let's say, I could be a felon overnight.
Yes, he's
And
right.
where I would need it the most because of this defund and defame the police movement,
Now this is funny. He decided to rebut. Why? Because he didn't say how much he loved the police. So he had to come back because Giuliani was like, I am all about the cops. So Astorino didn't say enough about that. So he had to go back in and make sure that he said enough.
would become a felon because you're not allowed it in New York City, which is utterly insane. You know, Lee talks about the SAFE Act. You're right. But the problem is you have funded it every single year when you were in Albany.
Oh, look at Giuliani smiling. And then Harry's like, yep. Now, look, you can see we start to squint a little bit. He does not like this. He does not like, he's accustomed to being the man on top. He is getting beat up. He is not liking it.
Cuomo said, do this. You said, okay, no problem. And all the junk in the Cuomo budgets, including the SAFE Act, you funded. So when you talk about the Unsafe Act, you're correct. But you were part of the problem because you were part of the status quo in Albany.
Marsh, I got the
Wilson.
first rebuttal because Mr. Zeldin's attacked me twice in the last
Go ahead.
appearance. So let's be clear. What's happened, let's look at the facts. In 2010, Mr. Zeldin and I campaigned together. In the years since, he has asked me multiple times to run for statewide office.
Ooh.
In January of this year, he asked me to be on his ticket. Now, why is he dishonestly attacking me now? Because his campaign is disintegrating. He is spending illegally because he has spent all of his primary.
By the way, Wilson now is currently suing him. I'm not joking. There's a current lawsuit. Wilson, the guy with the white hair, is suing Zeldin right now, saying campaign finance problem, which is, I'm sure, 100% true. Because, yeah, he just takes whatever. Zeldin just takes in cash. He doesn't care who gives it. He doesn't care how much. He's like, how much you got? Take it. How much you got? Take it. He's taking all the cash. Look, I'm not upset. I would take it too. I don't have enough donors. Like, I wish I had Lee Zeldin's donors. I'd be raking the cash in too. So I'm not mad at him for it. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure he's crooked on that one.
Cash, and he knows he is flailing. So he's attacking the biggest threat because we're surging right now. The reason we're surging is when people know about our turnaround plan to fix New York State, it's not some career politician who failed us in Albany for 4 years, but someone's going to come in after 30 years of fixing broken companies, turn Albany upside down and make it work for the voters and taxpayers of the state, just like I've done in company after company. That's the skill set we need in Albany, not another failed Albany politician.
Mr.
Yeah, I
Zeldin.
mean, I never asked, and I wouldn't ask never
you did.
Trump or Harry Wilson. to be
January 12th, you
lieutenant
did. I've
governor.
got the notes from that conversation. Don't lie.
Oh, he said, I got the receipts. He said, no. January, I got the receipts, homeboy. You asked me. Yeah, they always do. See, this is the thing that they do. So I've been asked, every year I'm asked, Republicans ask me to run for something. But what they do is the individual doesn't do it, right? So like Lee Zeldin doesn't call him up. One of his people does it and says, hey, I'm talking to Lee, and how about this? Lee Zeldin doesn't call him and go, hey, jump it, and do it. Well, for Harry, because Harry has tons of money, so he probably was trying to get money off him. So he might have. Lee Zeldin might have done it because Harry Wilson is a millionaire, a multimillionaire, so he might actually be doing it. But generally speaking, they get someone else to do it, so I am 100% sure somebody asked Harry Wilson to be in his ticket. No doubt. And Lee is dodging because he's like, well, no, I didn't say it. I'm sure someone did. 100%.
There's
Lie.
okay. That is a 0% chance. But as far as
100% chance you did.
I wouldn't want you to serve as
You
lieutenant
asked.
governor. I asked Allison Esposito,
asked.
commanding
Stop lying.
officer and deputy inspector of the 70th precinct.
Stop lying.
She was 24 years along a career in the NYPD. She would have become an NYPD chief. Her father was an NYPD chief.
I love cops more than all of you. No, that's what happened. Giuliani started with the I love cops thing. Then Arsenal was like, but I love cops too. And then here comes Lee Zeldin. But I picked a cop for my lieutenant governor. I'm the most cop lover of all of you.
He was the
I am
15th
honored.
person you asked, and you know it.
I mean, this guy
Everybody else
doesn't
turned you
stop. You're wrong on the wrong debate stage, man. You should be debating Hochul and Williams.
I
and
will in the
Suozzi.
general election.
You should be on the Democratic Party primary debate stage right now. Now, as far as what Astorino stated,
you are nowhere near one of us, man.
he knows this. There's nothing
Liberal.
in that budget that funded the SAFE Act. I opposed the
come on.
SAFE Act every
You're not
step
gonna
of
get
the
away with
way.
that, Lee.
I
You're not gonna
co-sponsored the bill to repeal it. I spoke at Pro 2A rallies against the SAFE Act. Listen, I don't mind taking on all three of you here tonight.
Yeah, you do, Lee. You kind of do mind. I could tell. You're not liking this. You're not liking you getting punches from like 3 spots. You're not enjoying this. Not at all, my friend. You're not enjoying
And
it.
I'm looking forward to taking on and defeating Kathy Hochul in November. But you can
Yeah, now you're delusional. You're probably going to win this. The odds are, because you have the cash and you're fighting a very good, a very good primary. The odds are you're going to win this thing. But you're not beating Hochul in the stop. That's you're delusional. All
lie as
lying.
much as you want, but Republican voters are smarter than you, Harry Wilson. You went to Harvard, yes, but don't think that you are smarter than the Republican voters.
That you went to Harvard, yes. Now you might think that was some kind of, positive thing. He meant that as an insult.
Across the state of New York who can they figure you out, Never Trumper. They
Never
figured
Trumper.
you out that you worked twice as an
They are
Obama
seeing right
advisor.
now that you are
they
a
figured
child.
you out
They're
that you
seeing
fired
right
your
now.
unvaccinated employees.
Guys, we're gonna do-
Oh, you fired your unvaccinated employees. Harry Wilson, come back with that one. Come back from now. Oh, go to the Democrats, Harry Wilson.
The more you
Come on,
talk,
just
the
a
more it
little.
You need
helps
to be
everybody else.
honest with voters.
Keep
You
talking.
need to be honest with voters.
The more it
Mr.
helps
Wilson,
everybody else.
Mr. Wilson has
Now, by the way, how many ideas have you heard? Not one.
gun violence or crime ever personally impacted your life?
Okay, has gun violence or crime ever personally impacted your life? All right.
And if so, how? And how's it changed you?
Okay.
Yeah, and this is really recent. On Thursday night, my cousin's father was murdered.
Oh,
in
that
his
sucks.
backyard.
Oh, that is terrible.
And it was by a monster who was out on cashless bail upstate, who had committed 2 assaults in recent weeks and set a fire in his backyard to draw him out and then stabbed him to death.
Okay, that's not gun violence, though. Feel bad for your cousin's father. That sucks. I mean, that's tough, right? That's your uncle, I guess, or maybe step uncle, whatever, however, uncle-in-law. That's terrible. Seriously. Wow. Just saying, that's not gun violence. That's knife violence. Oh, which is just regular violence in New York State, because only gun violence matters, not knife violence.
On Thursday night. So when my cousin called me, she said, "You have to get elected. You have to fix this problem."
Now, the problem I have is you can look at the people, right? When he says, I got to go back for a second. Look at the people here when he says
In his
this.
backyard. And
It's
it was
important to look at
by
their faces.
A monster who was out on cashless bail upstate, who had committed 2 assaults in recent weeks and set a fire in his back.
Now, look at Astorino. Astorino's actually bothered by this, as I am too when I first heard this. This is a bad story, right? He's bothered by it. He doesn't like that story because Astorino's actually a good guy. I actually know the guy. I like the guy. He's actually a good guy. He's just out of his league here, right? This is WWE, and he thinks he's, put your dukes up, sir, right? This is WWE. So he's out of his league in this regard. However, he's actually a good guy. Look at his face, right? Giuliani doesn't know what to say, and Lee Zeldin's like, you got sympathy? Man, he's angry at it. Zeldin's mad at this. Now you can see their faces.
Backyard to draw him out and then stabbed him to death. This on Thursday night. So when my cousin called me, she said, "You have to get elected. You have to fix this problem, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do it." That's the biggest problem in the policy debate is people in elected office do not spend enough time thinking about victims. They think about the criminals. They do not spend enough time thinking about victims. People like my cousin's father, who was 77 years old and a good man and been married to 50 years. His wife was inside when he was killed.
Terrible story.
That should not happen in the state of New York in 2022.
Well, we're sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Mr. Giuliani, has gun violence ever personally impacted your life or crime? In what ways?
Yeah, well, I grew up with cops, honestly, and
So that's his answer. Gun violence ever affect you? Yeah, I love cops. That's not really the question, Andrew. I get you like cops. I got it. I'm not mad at you for it. Lots of people like cops. Not mad at you for it. I'm just saying that really wasn't the question here.
My confirmation sponsor is a retired first-grade detective, so I've heard the stories of going out on the beat day in and day out. Not sure if you're going to get home to your...
So have you personally been affected by gun violence? First guy, well, my uncle got knifed. That sucks, but not gun violence. Second guy, have you been affected by gun violence? I love cops, and they told me some stories. That's not personally gun violence.
Family. I had a very good friend of mine who's been on the job now for 16 years who was shot. And every time that I think about this defund the police debate that we've been hearing, every time that I think
he really
about
loves
the
cops.
fact that we have cashless bail in New York where the numbers are just absolutely going the opposite direction. Look, we lead the country in out-migration here, Maurice, and it's for a magnitude of reasons.
Yeah, but we've been leading that for about 10 years. So bail's a problem, but you can't blame that one only on cashless bail, right? We've been doing it for 10 years.
When I look at crime specifically, I see the number one reason right here. Like I said before, this is not just a New York City problem. This is also up in Rochester, where they had the most murders ever in recorded history.
This is true.
Same thing
Rochester's
in
a
Binghamton
disaster.
last year, where they had the most murders ever in recorded history. Buffalo is in the top 10%.
Got it. We got it, but what's the answer?
Of mid-level cities for violent crime. This is all across the state. And on day
You're right.
one, I will sit down
Day
with
one.
the leader of the Assembly and the state Senate.
Day one. They're gonna inaugurate him. He's gonna walk upstairs and go, leader of the Senate Assembly, we're gonna do something.
And tell them I need a full repeal of bail reform on my desk, or I am not passing anything in your upcoming budget.
Look at that. He's not passing anything unless you do the day one.
Thank you, Mr. Giuliani. Mr. Astorino, was gun violence or crime ever personally impacted you or your life?
Actually, I was working at Pizza Hut way back when, and somebody came in with a gun and robbed us.
Wow, he answers the question. That sucks, by the way. But yes, he answered the question. Gun violence in a odd way affected me as a young kid. When I was a young kid, my father was a cop and also was correctional, but at this point he was a cop. He had friends who were cops also, and they always used to carry their small revolvers. They all carried revolvers in the 70s when I was a kid. They had revolvers, and they used to carry them on their ankles. That was a common thing. I don't know if cops do that now. I don't know. But back in the day, in the 70s, cops who were off duty would often carry the revolvers on their ankle. That was a thing they did. New York City cops, thing they did. So my father's friend had a girlfriend, and he was very violent. And not my father. Well, my father was too, but this guy was very violent. And his girlfriend came over to our house. I was young. I don't know. 5? Little. I was a little kid. And wow, this might have been, maybe 5. 4 or 5. And the guy came over and he pistol whipped her in the face. And I watched him smash the butt of the gun into her face and bust her nose open and bleed all over the place. I was still living in the South Bronx at this time. I didn't grow up in a good neighborhood. So, yes, I was affected very early with that myself. So I could at least answer the question.
So I've had to deal with that personally. But professionally, you know, unfortunately, as Westchester County executive, I had to attend the funerals of police officers who were killed, including here in New York City. And right now, everything is chaos. It's chaos in New York City. It is chaos, as Andrew said, because I've been to all these cities as well, and people just don't feel safe. But in New York City, you try to go into the city to have a good time with your family, and everyone's looking over your shoulder. You know, if you're lucky, you'll be hit over the head with a bag of poop. I mean, that's a good day going into the city now.
Little
and you
hyperbole.
might get hit with a hammer or shoved onto the train tracks. People are really concerned about what's happening.
Giuliani's enjoying this, isn't he?
There is a complete and utter breakdown. We have to get
I'm liking Giuliani a bit more, right? I mean, I think Ashman's a good guy. He's just way out of his league, and he just can't win this thing. He's a politician from 20 years ago. He just can't win this thing. But Giuliani's just like, he's loving it. He's like, I'm out here. Whatever happens, happens. He's just talking. He's like talking smack on the street. New York
City and all our cities, the safest in America. That is getting back to what actually worked. Helping our police departments, giving support to law enforcement, and stop coddling criminals. Criminals deserve to be in jail.
Thank you. Mr. Zeldin, same question.
This has been the hardest part of serving an elected office, is going to a funeral, going to a wake of someone who is dying too young in life, especially these NYPD funerals that we've gone to recently. And you hear the family members speaking out, calling out elected officials and asking for action.
So, like, no matter what you say, no matter what the question is. So what day is it today? It's Tuesday, and cops love Tuesday, and I love Tuesdays because cops. Wow, dude, I get it. You guys like cops, and it's okay. My father was a cop. I'm not anti-law enforcement, but you know, at one point, you got to pull it back a little bit, don't you? A little bit.
Calling out Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg personally by name, you could tell how personal it is for these families.
Has crime ever impacted you personally?
I ask question again.
Sure. Well, I haven't had anyone in the family targeted.
I love that. Yeah, sure. Well, no, I haven't anyone in the family. So is it? Yeah.
By gun violence, but I have gone to funerals.
I've gone to funerals.
And it's personally impacted. I would say it's the hardest part of serving in Congress. And while we have that conversation here tonight about guns, we can't also lose sight of that other conversation about all the crimes not involving guns. I mean, you heard Rob talking about people pushed in front of an oncoming subway car, stabbed to death in their apartment in Lower Manhattan.
Okay, there we go, Lee. Okay, saying some stuff that matters. I like this. So far, it's been a lot of fluff. Okay, Lee, give me something. I like this.
Remember, the anti-Semitic violence, the Asian American community that's being targeted, Sikh cab drivers who are being targeted. We have to combat all of this raw, violent hate.
Thank you.
So the next question goes to you, Mr.
So now he's for hate crimes now. By the way, Republicans are now for hate crimes. That wasn't a thing. Lee, now, you started good, Lee, and you went to hate crimes. Okay.
Mr. Giuliani, everyday New Yorkers are feeling the pinch of the economy, rising prices for food, gas, just about everything. And they're affecting the family pocketbook.
Yep.
What can you do as governor?
What can you do as governor? Huh? What can you do as governor?
Can you do as governor to bring some relief?
Well, how amazing a difference it's been over the last 2 years, Marcia, when we were looking at $2 a gallon gas. And now New Yorkers this winter may have to make the tough decision between filling up their fridge and heating their home. And it really is terribly sad. I think first and foremost, from an energy standpoint, what we can do, I'm answering the question here, Marcia.
Marcia, look, she's a nudge because she wants them all to look bad. She does. It's clear where she stands. However, she's like getting upset because none of them are answering the questions. You're like, well, what are you guys? Answer a question? Marcia, understand. Democrats will answer questions, and it'll be so cringe you want to vomit because all their ideas are terrible. However, Republicans can't answer questions because they have no ideas. Remember, Democrats, bad ideas. Republicans, no ideas. Republicans can easily attack people individually. You're bad, you're evil, you're wrong. Cuomo clone, you know, never Trump or Wilson. They got that down. Rolex, Rob, they got those down. But policy, no answers.
I think what I can do first and foremost is we can tap into the Marcellus Shale and specifically the energy and make New York truly the best fracking state in the country.
So to stop now, we're going to start fracking. Now, we're going to start fracking.
We have the ability to do that here in the state of New York. We need to make sure that we're doing everything, not just to say that we're going to reignite New York, but really do it. And that starts with energy here. It also starts with maybe competing more with the likes of Florida, of Texas, and Tennessee from a regulatory standpoint, as well as from a tax standpoint.
Okay, what's that mean?
When I think about New York, we're competing with California to be the highest tax state in the country.
Okay, so
that's going to continue.
How are you going to lower taxes then? Tell me.
To push job creators and businesses down to Florida.
Nothing. He just said, our taxes are bad. I know that, but you don't have a plan to fix them. I do. We can get rid of the state income tax in 4 years. That would be something. And fracking isn't a thing right now. What no one gets, inflation, is there's too much money for the amount of goods and services. So immediately change licensing regulations to get more people working, to put more services and more goods into the market, which will buffer inflation. Now, most of this inflation comes from the federal government. He should say that, right? Most is from the federal government. But you can buffer inflation by doing that immediately, like tomorrow, not trying to frack in the southern tier of New York, which to be forward probably is 14, 15 counties in that area that actually can frack. It's in the southern tier of New York, the border, basically for those who don't know, basically it borders Pennsylvania, generally speaking, right? It's that area. Half of those counties, more, I think like 14 out of 15 already voted. They don't want fracking. So you can release the moratorium, which we should do, by the way. There should not be a statewide moratorium. But a lot of the local people don't actually want it. And that's the problem. You can get people to actually want it. If they did, it's a year, 2, 3 years before it gets up and running. That's not immediate. Not a bad idea, though, but it's not immediate.
Mr. Zeldin, same question.
We have to reverse the ban on the safe extraction of natural gas in the Marcellus and Utica shales. The southern tier is desperate for it. There are other counties that want it. It would allow us to create jobs.
It's not true. That's absolutely not accurate. They've already voted. Most of them actually don't want it. Now, we could change that by showing them how, showing value. We could do things, right? For those who don't know how that works, one of the biggest problems in fracking, particularly early on, is the fracking companies weren't saying how and what they were putting into the ground. They weren't saying how they were doing it, what they were putting into the ground, because they were hiding behind intellectual property. They were saying, we can't tell you what goes in the ground or how we do it. That's intellectual property. And my issue is, no, you have to allow us, the individuals in the area, to see exactly what you're putting in the ground and how you're doing it, or no. You must be transparent. Otherwise, no, because that's going into the ground that people get their water out of. Oh, no, you must be transparent. If you are transparent, then you can. But that has to be a piece. You got to be transparent.
And generate revenue and revitalize communities, and to be able to drive down energy costs. There's also pipeline applications right now up in Albany collecting dust, being delayed, denied. Instead, they should be getting approved. If we move forward with this, and we have to cut spending in this state, there's so much wasteful spending, tens of billions of dollars worth it. I have a plan that would provide the largest tax cut in the history of the state of New York.
How are you gonna, these liars, you know, they every single time they run, remember last time, we're gonna do a 30% tax cut on property tax. Absolutely made up. They can make up whatever they want. They know they can't win. They just make stuff up. If that was such a good idea 4 years ago, why don't we implement it? Why is he talking about it now? Because they just make this stuff up. They're just going to cut taxes. They just say it. They have no actual plan. They know they're not going to win. It doesn't matter to them. Oops. Sorry about that. Apologize, guys.
On this,
I apologize. Wow. Guys, I apologize. Let me pop that out real fast. I completely hit the wrong button. I apologize. Let me go back to where we were. There we go. Let me pop that back up. I apologize. Technical difficulties, but we'll get Lee Zeldin yelling again right now. There we go.
Americans are saying are the most important issues to them.
Let me get him
That's
yelling
where
again.
Congress should be spending their time right now.
Right about here.
Of the state of New York. For Broome County alone, I heard that the estimate was $2 billion in economic development for a county desperate for it. Meanwhile, for the next act of one-party Democratic rule in Albany,
did I miss it?
they want to have a statewide ban on the hookup of new construction.
Hold on, I think it's here.
Gone to recently, and you hear the family members speaking out.
Oh no, it was that one. I apologize, guys.
Maybe competing more with the likes of.
There we go.
They want to have a statewide ban on on the hookup.
Sorry about that.
Of new construction for gas. That's wrong. We saw it in New York City. It's wrong if they want to do it statewide. I feel like we have a great opportunity here, but we have to reverse that ban on the safe extraction of natural gas.
Mr. Astorino next up.
Yeah,
Same question.
Definitely, New York is blessed with.
So all they talk about, so the only way of doing this is just doing the energy, which is not a bad idea, but it should have been done years ago. If you want to fix it now, what I talked about is immediate, right? That's immediate.
Natural gas, we should be safely drilling it and making sure that it's provided for everyone who needs it in New York and in our country. Nuclear option, that's too. Indian Point was closed in West.
Also true. However, that's at least 4 years away. So again, right, this is good. I'm glad he brought nuclear option up. He's correct, but that's at least 4 years away.
Westchester, and that's 25% of our energy. I think we can build nuclear power plants throughout New York State. They're very safe and they're good for the environment. But we should have an all-of-the-above approach with energy. You know, look, as Westchester County executive, I had to work every day to help create jobs, and 44,000 were created in Westchester when I was there. I went right to work on the budget. We had a big deficit. We cleaned that up. $1.8 billion was the budget when I walked in the door, and it was 1.8 when I left. That is fiscal conservatism.
That's not bad.
That allowed us to actually cut property taxes and never raise them. Imagine if they had done that in New York State, we'd be much better. But no, the Republicans in the Senate majority at the time under Dean Skelos and Lee Zeldin just went with the Cuomo budgets. And so
he's not wrong on that one. That's right. He's not wrong. Look at Lee. He's pissed off. He's like, man, these guys keep hammering me. I was terrible when I was in the assembly, and they keep bringing it back up.
Going on the track. So today, the budget went from $178 billion to $220 billion, and everyone is leaving New York because nobody can afford it.
He's right.
So here's what I'm going to tell you, folks. Help is on the way. I've had to do this in the past, and I will do it again. We will make sure that New York is more affordable for everybody because nobody can afford it anymore. The middle class,
Harry Wilson
the working class, they're getting clobbered every single day.
Mr. Wilson.
So, Marcia, this is a huge issue, and that's why it's one of the 3 key pillars of my turnaround plan for the state of New York.
Ooh, 3 pillars of a turnaround plan. I like, see, the difference between what Harry Wilson and I do is Harry Wilson says, I've got this plan, 2-point, 3-point thing too. Yep. But what he doesn't do is the thing I do. I always come up with like some silly acronym or something. So you can like the program or something like that, right? The GIB. I come up with the NIST. I come up with stuff like that so you can remember the thing, right? Or the regulate like onions. So he's not bad. He has some plans. It's nice. He doesn't know how to market those plans.
Along with the biggest tax cut in history and making New York safe again through our
biggest tax cut in history. How you doing that?
Our anti-crime plan. Specifically on the cost of living. Most people who don't follow state policies closely don't realize how much of the cost of food, energy, and housing is driven by bad Albany regulations.
That's right.
So I agree with my colleagues here on the need to expand our energy supply and in all of the above energy policy, and that will help on utility bills, okay? But 48 cents of a gallon of gas is driven by taxes from Albany. Only 16 cents has been waived for a short period of time. On food,
right, too.
And things like...
I actually mentioned that you could actually, within a year, you could raise enough money through a trust where you could actually pay for school tax, and then literally within a year, you could also raise enough money through other things that we do, meaning through leasing naming rights to pay for the gas tax. You could do that. I mean, that's at least is a plan. I'll give that. Oh, see, there's a little bit of a plan. Got one.
Regulations coming out of Albany that have driven up the cost of milk and shut down well over 1,000 dairy farms in the state that have had direct implications for consumers across the state.
Yep.
So much of this bad policy is driven by Albany. In my turnaround plan, I am focused on doing 3 things. We will cut 20% of income taxes and property taxes for every person in the state.
Wow.
We will repeal all the regulations that drive up the cost of food, energy, and housing. And combined, Mr. Estrino went way over. Combined, those things will be $3,000 to $5,000 a year in the pockets of middle class.
Look, I'm not against what he's saying there, but if you ever notice what I talk about, I don't talk about cutting taxes. I talk about reducing spending, finding other ways of raising money, and eliminating taxes. If you just lower taxes, I mean, none of these guys are going to win, so it won't matter. But if, in theory, if you just lower taxes, the next guy raises them, or you increase debt, or someone else pays for it. You've got to be able to change the budget so that you can lower the taxes, right? You've got to change how people get their services so you can lower the taxes.
Class families, a total game changer. And combine that with our climate plan, that's the essence of our turnaround plan for the state.
Mr. Zeldin, just a 30-second.
Yeah, first off, Rolex Rob again was making a false claim. I never voted for the Cuomo budgets. Actually, what happened was the Senate Republicans passed our own budgets every single time I was there, self-imposed spending cap, and then we reached a 3-way agreement. Now, what he didn't tell
you passed your own budget. Oh, okay. I know you can do that. I'm not passing the state budget. I'm just passing my own budget. Okay, I like that.
Tell you about his time as Westchester executive is that the deficit went up, the debt went up,
yep.
The cash reserves went down.
See, that's what Lee, you're reading my mind, brother. Okay, we had a little bit of simpatico there. You can't just cut taxes. You've got to change the system. Otherwise, what happens? Deficit goes up, debt goes up. Yes, reserves go down. You can't just cut taxes. You have to actually change the system and cut taxes.
The bond rating went down, and the sewer fund owed tens of millions of dollars to the general fund. He was run out of town when he ran for re-election in 2017, just like he was run out of town when he got crushed in Westchester running for state senate in 2020.
I know you want to respond. Go
I
ahead.
certainly do.
Quick response.
We cut taxes in
30
Westchester
seconds.
County, and I will cut taxes in New York State. I know how to do it because I've actually done it. Go to my Twitter feed right now.
Yeah, but you didn't answer the question. That you can't cut taxes. I could do that too. But Lee's right. Lee called you out. You cut taxes, but then the deficit went up, right? And the debt went up, and the cash reserves went down. You can't just cut taxes and be effective. If you want to be effective, you got to change the system and cut taxes. You got to do both, not one. Oops, did I do it again? I am messing this up. I'm sorry, guys. I keep screwing this up. I got to do this right this time. I apologize. I keep messing this up. Is it here?
Tens of millions of dollars to the general fund. He was run out of town.
Sorry.
I endorsed you over him.
Of the United States
I
of
endorsed
America.
you over him.
Really? You didn't do anything.
Ooh.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
You didn't do anything. He just called you out, Lisa. You didn't do
Making
anything.
stuff up as we go along, I
We're
guess.
going to move on. Next topic here. Mr. Zeldin, when President Trump's appointees to the Supreme Court were questioned during their confirmation hearings about Roe v. Wade, they declared it the settled law of the land. But now the court appears poised to overturn it with the votes of the Trump appointees. If you are elected governor, will you pledge to keep the New York law that affirms the right of a woman to get an abortion in this state?
Now, think about this. This is another Trump question, right? This is made to make them feel bad because Republicans are pro-life as a whole. Like, not all Republicans, obviously, but as a whole, Republicans are pro-life, right? That's true. As a whole, they are. Again, obviously, individuals are separate and different, whatever the case may be. So now they're asking, are you guys pro-life or pro-choice? That's what they're basically asking, and puts them in a tough spot.
And if so, will you pledge to not change your mind?
The law in New York goes far beyond Roe, and I believe that a lot of people who consider themselves to be pro-choice would agree with me when I say that we shouldn't allow late-term partial birth abortion in this state. I don't believe that should be legal as it is right now.
You know what, Lee? That you didn't dodge it. Nicely done. All right, you didn't dodge it. You came right out. Well done. I'm good with that. He didn't dodge. You go, well, it's settled law and dodge. He just said, nope, I don't like. All right, not badly. I'm good with that one.
I don't believe that non-doctors should be performing abortion in this state. I believe it should be legal for there to be parental consent, that there should be informed consent. I believe that we should be doing more to promote adoption.
Don't steal my. Stop stealing my ideas.
Is that
you stealing all my ideas tonight, Lee? Don't you got some of your own? I've been saying that for 5 years. Now all of a sudden, you're libertarian. Well, not really, but a little bit. Take some of my stuff.
A lot of people who consider themselves to be pro-choice agree with me. My daughters, they were born in the second trimester. They were less than a pound and a half when they were born, 14 and a half weeks early. I had a chance to see life in the second trimester, and it was beautiful. Thank God they had the opportunity to survive and thrive. They're in all honors classes, getting better grades than I did when I was their age.
That I believe.
We need to be promoting family, and I believe that right now New York's law is going too far when you start allowing late-term partial birth abortion.
That's not a bad answer.
Mr. Giuliani,
you didn't back out at all.
Elected governor.
Giuliani would just say whatever he wants. This guy's just like, I'm gonna. And did I tell you I love cops? You go out you do
Same
it.
Question.
Yeah. So whatever differences we may have, and I think it's pretty obvious to the audience that there are quite some big differences between the candidates.
No, there aren't.
We're all fathers on the stage or in the room that I'm in. And I have to tell you, for me, the first time that I saw my baby Grace on that ultrasound, I knew just a couple weeks after conception that the most important thing in my life was protecting her life. I'm pro-life, and I'm not afraid to say it. But let me tell you one thing where I've heard the left for many years say, my body, my choice. Recently, we've had health mandates come down.
Oh, he threw vax mandates on this one. Giuliani, not bad. I thought this question was going to be worse. This question is going pretty good so far. I like this. Giuliani's like, I'm pro-life, I don't care. And then, boom. By the way, you know what? Vax mandates suck. They do. He's literally an example of it. He's right.
This is very appropriate considering what we're dealing with tonight, right here. We've had health mandates come down from 2 health commissioners and 2 governors that have said you do not have a choice in what you can put into your body. They've said if you don't put this into your body, then you'll lose your job. To nurses, and in New York City, to firefighters, to doctors, to police officers.
There we go. There we go. Yep. Okay. Check. Talked about cops. Check.
To teachers. To me, I stand with them, not just in empty words, but in actions. We need to make sure that we are doing everything. And on day one, I will end these unconstitutional COVID mandates.
You're doing everything day one. So day one, you're forcing them to do something else. Day one, you're doing the unconstitutional. You're okay. You have a busy day one. I like it.
And give everybody their job back who has lost them with back pay.
Whoa, and you ended the mandates. And you're giving everybody back their job with back pay on day one. Okay, I don't know how you doing that one. Some of these people weren't working for the state, but okay.
Mr. Wilson, same question.
So I too am uncomfortable with some of the excesses of current abortion policy, but I'm.
Oh, you think you're running the general election, Harry? You're not. You're running the Republican primary. You can't be kind of so-and-so. Not when Lee comes out and says no, and then Giuliani starts punching and throwing anti-vax and cops. You're saying it's going to work for you, brother?
I'm not running on a social agenda. I'm running to turn around this state. That's why I'm laser focused on.
I'm not running on a social agenda. You pro-choice, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. Harry, I like you. I'm not mad at you for it at all. I'm just saying, Lee might have been right about you on the wrong debate stage. You might want to go another stage in this one. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
what politicians get awry is they spend time talking about all these other issues. So I'm not, I've actually, like Mr. Zeldin, I'm not comfortable with partial birth abortion. I'm not comfortable with non-doctors performing the procedure.
Will you fight to change the law?
I will not fight to change the law.
Oh, he won't fight to change the law. All right, look, he came clean too. I like it. You came clean. Came clean. I got it.
Torino, same question.
So I think this is one of the hardest things that a woman has to go through. The choice of trying to go through pregnancy and have a baby that they may not be prepared to have or can't afford, or terminate a pregnancy.
It's not
so
wrong.
it's a really difficult choice.
It's not wrong.
And I think we've got to get back to a position of we're here to help. Prenatal care and pregnancy centers, because most of abortions are in a concentrated area of high poverty.
Those places where you want to send the cops to do stop and frisk. Those places. Yeah.
75% of abortions are by women who are very low income. And I
That's
think,
true.
And I've talked to many who feel that there was no other option. And there are
Also
options.
true.
And I think, again, we can have a reasonable discussion in this state. I'm pro-life. I've always been. It's who I am. And I do think we need a culture of life in this country and in our state. But lighting up the Empire State Building when they passed this law in 19 to have abortions legal up to the moment of birth, that's not where New Yorkers are. That's extreme. And so I think we should have a reasonable discussion.
That's
on
not,
when it's
he's right.
appropriate
He's
to
right.
have restrictions.
All right. This
And
wasn't
I
that
do
bad.
agree in parental notification and having doctors perform them and having clean clinics. These are things that we should have discussions about.
Okay, this went better than I thought.
Thank you.
This went better than I
So
thought.
the next question is going to go to you, Mr. Giuliani. You did talk about mandates just recently, but you said that if elected, you're going to rehire all the state and city workers who lost their
Day
jobs
one,
because
he
they were
said.
unvaccinated.
Day one.
But the truth is that governors don't have the ability to rehire city workers. And
Valid
Mayor
point.
Adams has said repeatedly he's not going to do it. So how can you get these workers back in the city
That's true, right? Adams said, you're gone. Too bad. So sad. You're out. So how are you going to fix this
payroll
one?
if the mayor says absolutely not?
Well, I'm very well
Look at him
aware
smile.
of negotiations
I'm going to go down there and punch him in the face. Go say something like that. I'm going to have my dad beat him up. Go ahead. Say something.
between the governor of the state of New York and the mayor. I've seen it from the other side. And I must tell you, that's when you have to use your leverage. I also know that Mayor Adams went up to Albany recently, said he was going to get bail reform repealed, and came back with his tail between his legs. Look, it's all about going up to Albany and
Look at him. He said, you want bail reform? You better give me them jobs back. That's what he said. I like that.
using the leverage necessary. That's why I've said with bail reform specifically, I would sit down on day one with the
question
legislature
has
and
to do with
assembly and tell them it's my first priority. And then
Day one. He got 3 things going on day one. He's going to have a busy, he's not having lunch day one. I can guarantee that he can't. You got to have a working lunch, man. What else have you doing day one?
Back on the
secondly,
payroll.
with regards to the
Mr.
mayor,
Giuliani,
what I
the
would
que-
do,
answer the
Marsha, I'm trying
question.
to answer the question over here. It's bad enough I'm in a different room because you guys have relegated me to this. Let me at least answer your question because I'm getting there on this. And
Yes,
frankly, I think this is a great
Andrew.
example of the media continuing to be unfair against conservatives and acting more like Pravda than anything.
Well, that's true. I mean, he's right. You can tell the different questions for the Democrats, Republicans. If you watched both, he's right on this one. I'm going to give you some points on this one, Julian, a little bit. I'm going to give you some points on this one.
You know how you could do
But
it.
I want to answer the question here. What I would do is, if the mayor does not rehire them, and I will utilize my leverage, I will put them on the state payroll because it's so important right now at a time.
You're going to put him on a state payroll. So, Mr. Cut Taxes, you're going to take all those people and throw them on the. If I'm the mayor, I'm firing everybody then. I'm going to say everyone has to have 95 vaxxers or you're fired. You'll get fired, you take my payroll. Oh my God, that's good. I'm running for mayor now. If you win, I'm running for mayor. I'm firing everybody, saying you have to have 75 vaccinations or you're fired, and you can put them all on your payroll. I love it. This is easy day. I'm going to solve the New York City budget, as you said, day one.
when we have a nurse shortage, we have a healthcare worker shortage. It's absurd to think that by this health choice, the governor decided to just fire these people arbitrarily.
He's right.
Look, we haven't considered natural immunity. We haven't given people this choice. The
Not wrong.
CDC director in January of this year actually said on CNN that the vaccination does not prevent transmission. So what are we doing here? Is this political theater just like January 6th,
yeah.
Marcia?
Ooh, we threw January 6th out. Look at him. Guy he's not playing games.
That your time is up. Mr. Wilson, your
This is what I'm saying. Zeldin's probably going to win this thing. If Zeldin doesn't, it'll be because Giuliani motivated a lot more of the hardcore Republicans to vote for him, particularly New York City guys. Maybe. I still think Zeldin's going to win this thing. But if not, it'll be Giuliani.
position on this. Would you,
I
as
can't
governor,
remember the question. Can you please go back to the
I
question?
remember the question.
he says, Mr. Giuliani says that if he was elected, he would rehire all the people from New York City who had lost their jobs because they refused to get a vaccine. He says he can put them back on the city payroll or force the mayor to put them back on the city payroll,
as
even though the
governor- as
mayor
governor-
says he can't do it.
As governor, I'm going to focus on the things within my control as governor, and I would rehire state employees, but I'm not going to go beyond the purviews of the governor's office.
Yeah, but there is a problem though, right? I mean, it's a valid question, right? And I don't just want to use a mallet on this one. A lot of people lost their jobs unfairly. That's true, right? So are you going to be able to make it all right? You probably can't make it all right realistically, right? But can you do something? Yes. And you should, right? Conceptually, should you be trying to give these some people may not even want their jobs back, right? They may have moved on. So it's been some of them 2 years more. So some of them don't even want their jobs back. But you should offer the state level jobs back, of course. If you give them some kind of sign-on bonus, it's probably effective, but you probably can't give them back pay. Plus, they were probably collecting some kind of money anyway in the last 2 years anyway. The city, you want to give a bonus to the city for getting people back on to get their jobs back, or some bonus to move them out, right? That kind of thing. Either one, but you want to try to make things right. That's this. You can't always give everybody everything back when you screw up. You just can't always do it. But you try to make them whole so that make things right the best of your ability. And the leverage that Andrew is talking about, Julian's talking about, should be, how do I give them something? Maybe a better pension, maybe something else, maybe years towards a certain job, maybe early retirement, something like that to make them whole if you can't get the job back.
Mr. Astorino?
Well, let's start with this. What has happened to children over the last 2 years is completely unforgivable, with schools being closed because of these unscientific mandates. I mean, I watch the science and data from around the world.
Okay, unscientific mandate. I'm more worried about unconstitutional. I'd like to go there instead.
And we were reacting negatively here in New York, most of us, because we were being told, you got to wear your mask, you got to be vaccinated, or you can't participate in society. And by the way, 34,000 healthcare workers were fired. Now we have a healthcare crisis in New York. Governor Kathy Hochul made that decision, and she forced the healthcare crisis. So I know as governor, I can't hire city employees back. But yes, I would demand to the mayor, as part of budget negotiations or any other negotiation, that they do hire them back with back pay and pension credits. I think that's very important.
I'm not prepared to go that far. They got to be made whole somehow. I feel like they're not going to, the other thing that bothers me is they're actually not going to do it. None of them are actually going to do anything. They're not going to win, but even if they did win, they wouldn't do that because the amount of payout you'd have to have would be massive, right? A massive, payout. So, I feel like there's got to be something made whole, but I don't think you can do all the things they're saying. I think that's realistic. The kid part, critical though. He's right on the kids that there's no tomorrow, and you should make them whole too.
Because people's liberties have been taken away during
there we
the
go.
process.
Mr. Zeldin.
Liberty.
The state should offer the people who used to work for the city a job working for the state.
No.
On day one, all COVID mandates end.
He's day one in now too. See, he did. Giuliani was doing a day one. Zeldin's like, I could day one too, not just you. I'm day one in, and on day one, I'm getting rid of mandates. How about that? Right? Yeah. So he's day 1 and 2. But no, I don't want to all of a sudden explode the state payroll. That's not man. They just all want to expand the budget.
Been long saying that as well. What you just heard from
Look, they were talking about how do we were discussing on this show a week or two ago about, how do you make things right for the people who went to nursing homes, right, to their families. And people talking about, well, maybe you start suing, Cuomo or something like that. Maybe that's an answer, right? Maybe you don't sue Cuomo. I don't know but even if you sued the state, I might even be okay with suing the state because then insurance might pay, right? So now at least the budget isn't exploded. The insurance is paying, and there's a larger insurance, chunk due coming up here. But that's a much less chunk than the budget itself. So if I had to take a higher insurance, I might deal with that issue instead. Lawsuit may be the answer in this case.
Never Trumper Harry Wilson was a bit ironic because he actually implemented a company policy that would fire any of his employees who refused to get the COVID shot.
Is that right? Harry Wilson. How can you be a Republican in New York State firing people for that?
Now, I believe that it's important for every person who has been fired to be offered their jobs back with back pay. I don't believe the religious exemption should have gotten eliminated.
He's right on that
in
one.
2019. That should come back. We shouldn't have had two-year-olds, toddlers in masks. That was abusive and unscientific. And I don't believe anyone out there who wants to get a COVID shot should do it because the governor called on you to be her apostles. We're not looking to be ruled by an emperor or governor. She actually went into church and told New Yorkers that that's why they should get it, to be my apostle. She referred to herself as the mother of all 62 counties.
She did.
We need balance and common sense restored to Albany. That means Kathy Hochul has to get fired on November 8th.
I need to respond. I need to rebut, Marcia. No, I need to rebut his misinformation.
Just 15 seconds.
So I need more than 15 seconds. Mr. Zeldin has never had a private sector job, so he doesn't understand how businesses work.
Oh, he said job. Zeldin is what he said. Wow. Harry Wilson calling you no job Zeldin. All right, go ahead. Keep going.
I ran a nursing home business. President Biden was introducing a vaccine mandate for all nursing home employees, and we had to deal with that. That's where 2/3 of our revenue came from, was Medicare and Medicaid, and that's exactly what we did. We did it safely and fairly, and we had incredible care for our patients. 40,000 employees and 20,000 patients a week.
That's not, if you're dealing with nursing homes and you got a mandate from nursing homes, all right, you know what? That's not that bad. All right. Yeah, Harry, you know what? Maybe you're stuck, right? That's a spot where the state kind of forced your hand. All right. I forgive you, Harry, for this one. I forgive you for that. The state forced your hand.
Care of. And because of that experience, which Mr. Zeldin clearly does not even understand, when I'm governor, I will have a full investigation of Governor Cuomo and his misdeeds in the nursing home.
There we go. See, that's what I want to hear. Harry, now you speaking my language. Okay, now we're good.
We will prosecute him and anyone else complicit to the fullest extent of the law, and we will make restitution to the families that were hurt by his bad policy.
Thank you.
I like that.
We're going to move on. Next question.
You have the next question.
Yes. Mr. Zeldin, you had a news conference last week saying the state should cancel congestion pricing. If you're elected, how will you pay for the much-needed repairs at the MTA? You suggesting higher fares, new taxes, or would you just leave the MTA as it is and potentially fall into a greater state of disrepair?
There's no other answer. Higher fees, more taxes, or greater state of disrepair. There's no other answer, is there? Yeah.
Yeah, and the false charge is just me. Actually, I started and operated my own firm, but putting that aside on the
no, you were a lawyer on your own. That's
last one. I do oppose congestion pricing. I believe that it is unfair, that people are already struggling to afford to make ends meet. And I would do everything in my power to stop congestion pricing from being implemented. Kathy Hochul, when she was with you, she stated that she supported congestion pricing, and she's wrong. A decade ago,
all Democrats do.
Op-ed where there was a new incoming MTA chairman where I outlined 10 different ways that we can make.
Jumaane was like, and now, why don't we have it now? Double that. They were all on it. Democrats are all about congestion pricing. For those who don't know what congestion pricing is, it's when you have to pay a fee to go to certain downtown parts of Manhattan. If you want to drive down, it's almost like a toll, so that it tries to keep people out of the city, because if you go there, you have to pay extra.
The MTA operate more efficiently. We still have.
You can just operate more efficiently. See? Problem solved. Why didn't we think of that? Why didn't we think about that, Lee? Why don't we just have the MTA operate more efficiently? Woo! That's done.
Those ways and others to make the MTA operate more efficiently. But if you want to get more revenue for the MTA, you need people to feel safe on it. If you have
more cops. That's going to be it, right? Come on now. More cops, right?
Folks who don't feel safe on the subways, and they're
on.
seeing the homeless and others with mental health issues, the crimes that are making front page headlines. You're not going to get the riders. So I think it's important that we make our subways, our streets, our businesses, our homes all as safe as possible. People are fleeing and they're not riding mass transit. And that's one of the other key ways to help pay for it.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Astorino,
all right.
for
These are
your
cops.
comparison.
Okay.
This year is going to be the revenge of the normal people. And I'll tell you why. Because congestion pricing is another backbreaker on the average New Yorker.
Get
It
some.
sounds so great, but you're going to charge $30 to go south of 60th Street when New York City is trying to get back on its feet. All this does
Get
is
some,
it crushes
Astorino.
the outer boroughs. It crushes the middle class. And the elites, they won't care at all. But more and more people will leave
He's right.
New York. We got to get rid of like red light cameras and speed
Yes.
cameras. All these are nickeling, diming people. And it's another reason to leave New York. So when I say it's going to be the revenge of the normal people,
Astorino, get some. Yes. Yes. Get rid of them. If you actually want people to drive more slowly in a neighborhood, what would you do that you know works? Speed bumps. Speed bumps are cheap. They work effectively. They work to slow people down. It works perfectly. But if you actually don't want to slow people down, you just want some revenue, well, two things. You install red light cameras and speed cameras because you could give those jobs to your cronies and they can give you kickbacks. That's number one. And number two, you can now raise revenue and punish the poor, the working poor and the middle class. Or you just do speed bumps.
we are fed up with what the hell is going on in New York right now. And the only way to change it is to change course. And look, I did this in Westchester. I fixed our problems in Westchester County. We created jobs. We got back to normalcy. But nobody feels like they're being heard right now. And I will hear you because things are so bad, but they're going to get better. Help is on the way.
Mr. Giuliani, congestion pricing.
Well, let's be clear. Congestion pricing is a tax on hardworking New Yorkers. That's what it is.
He's right.
The same thing with speed and red light cameras. Look, if speed cameras existed exclusively in school zones during school hours, then that's something that I'd be willing to talk about. But you see in more and more conservative areas like Staten Island, like Southern Queens, more.
That's where his people are. Staten Island loves Giuliani. So he went right to his people.
Speed cameras that pop up than honestly in some of those blue areas right there. I think this is a tax not just on hardworking New Yorkers, but I think it's a tax on conservatives here in the 5 boroughs and in other counties around New York City and around the state, frankly, as well. So I would look at it this way, though. We continue to look at New York's rising budget going from $135 billion back in 2010, now $220 billion. Let's take a look at a state that's thriving. Let's take a look at Florida at $98 billion.
Not wrong.
With 1 million more people than we do. And I think it's pretty obvious that the same old in Albany will not work. We're going to need a change agent to come in there to make budget cuts at least 10% across the board, except for our law enforcement.
Thank you.
Oh, except for the cops. Okay. We haven't talked about cops in a while. It's got to be him. Like every question. And going to beat everybody up, but not cops. And so, not cops. Got it.
Congestion pricing.
So I'm opposed to congestion pricing. And let me explain how my approach in general is different and how that affects the MTA specifically. Okay. So I'm not a politician. I'm a turnaround expert who's spent 30 years fixing failed organizations. That applies to New York State, and that applies to the MTA. Why has it failed? Because no one has taken and created a long-term plan that meets the needs of the customers, which are the people of.
That's not true. They make plans all the time. Harry, I get where you're coming. Utterly not true. Faster Forward was a detailed plan. They make plans all the time. The plans just suck. See? They have tons of detailed plans. I've seen many of them. They just suck.
This city and commuters into the city and done it in a comprehensive and thoughtful way. What does that mean? That means a long-term capital plan. That means dealing with the cost overruns on construction.
They're all in those plans. They're just wrong and bad. No. You're incorrect. You're basically going, I'm just going to have a better plan. No, not working.
Costs are driven by overtime, bad contracts, and excess costs, as we saw in the construction of the 2nd Avenue subway. That is what we need. We need someone to actually dig deep, create a turnaround plan for the MTA. Governor Cuomo neglected it. Governor Hochul neglected it. I would fix it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on. We have a question now from our debate partner, News Radio 880, and here is Steve Burns.
Come on, Steve. Tell me something good.
Right now, only the governor can recall a district attorney. Should there be a constitutional amendment to allow voters, the people, to remove a DA they don't agree with?
Like California.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, I first of all, as governor, I would use my power under Article 13 to remove any rogue district attorney who does not enforce the law, including DA Bragg.
And they hate
but
Bragg.
in terms of the
Bragg, if I mean, there's no chance these guys win. But if they did, you're gone.
focus on the question on recall, I have long been advocating initiative, referendum, and recall to empower voters much more beyond the insider control processes we have today. I have a long list of government reform plans that would make it easier to get on the ballot, that would make it easier for people to vote, and make it, I'm sorry.
Easy to get on the ballot, easy to vote. Why didn't you come with the program? See, that's your problem. You got some plans, you don't got a program.
Make it easier for people to participate in the political process and have term limits of 8 years for statewide officials and 12 years for legislative leaders. Why? Because we have a broken political culture of failed career politicians on both sides of the aisle at Albany.
Term limits on your own job if you win.
100%. Okay. But I would also, more importantly, try to work hard to pass them statewide, including for the legislature.
Got it. Mr. Astorino?
Absolutely. I would fire Alvin Bragg and anyone who doesn't do their job.
Everyone's firing.
The words of the law. And
should there be a constitutional amendment?
Yeah, there should be. Absolutely. But I would use my power as governor to remove elected officials who don't do their job, like Alvin Bragg. You know, term limits is something I believe in. We passed it in Westchester County. I will do it in New York. And I think that is a way to reduce some of the corruption, but just have fresh ideas, which right now you can't get any more stale. I mean, look, honestly, some of our own party members, the Republicans, were part of the failure here in New York. And the establishment, like Lee Zeldin, was very much a part of that. Under
He's not wrong.
Skelos, they kept voting with Cuomo. They kept us on this track, and they kept us in the wrong direction. Another thing for term limits, the name of the Tappan Zee Bridge is coming back. No more Cuomo. That's a term limit.
Mr. Zeldin, should there be a constitutional amendment to allow voters to remove local district attorneys?
Yeah, but that should be a vote that's in Manhattan. If you're going to fire the Manhattan district attorney, it shouldn't be. But I'm for a constitutional amendment.
Statewide, you can remove your local DA.
I don't believe that statewide they should be voting to get rid of it.
Look how shot he is right now. Lee doesn't understand the question. Everyone else got the question. Lee didn't get it. Lee's like, you can't have a statewide to remove somebody local. Nobody's saying it. That's what's called the constitutional amendment, so that statewide anybody could do it. Lee is lost because he's so frustrated about people calling him, I'm establishment, I'm trying to be a rebel. No. You're getting beat up, man. You're not doing well. You're under fire and you're cracking under pressure. Come on now.
County district.
Should it be a law statewide that localities can remove their own DAs that they elected?
1,000%. But on day one, as soon as I get sworn in,
the
first thing I'm going to do is going to fire Manhattan District Attorney Alvin.
He's day one and now too. Giuliani, you were the only one day one, and now Lee's day one and two. First, I'm a swearing, and Alvin, you're gone, and then I'm ending mandates, and I guess no one's having. If Republican wins, no lunch that day. No, you working lunch maybe, and you're not going.
Refusing to enforce the law. Now, what? Never Trump or Harry Wilson just didn't offer up.
See, he was thinking about attacking Wilson so much that he literally got messed up on the question. I'm not joking. He's like, I gotta get Wilson. I gotta fight him.
The Republican voters out there is talking about how he donated to the campaign of Manhattan.
Oh, and look at Giuliani like, how could you donate to that guy? And Brandon Astorino's like, are we doing this? I thought we're trying to be real people.
District Attorney Alvin Bragg, just like he didn't tell the voters of New York that he had a policy at his company to fire his employees who were unvaccinated, or that he was a two-time Obama advisor, or that he refused to vote for Donald Trump in 2020. He is lying to the people as if I voted to defund the police.
You did.
No, right now on TV, you're lying to people at home.
Budget and the 2014 budget.
You're just.
Ooh, he's like, Wilson got the receipts. He's like, nope, 2013 budget, 2014 budget. You did exactly that. But boom. I love that. I love. He's like, I got receipts, man. I got receipts. And you can see Lee is not happy. He is not happy. He's like, but I called you Obama. You have to bend the knee now. You're broken. I called you never Trumper. Off with you. Go away.
Making this up. You're on the wrong stage. You should be saying next to Jumaane Williams and Tom Suozzi and Kathy Hochul.
Let's talk about these lies. Be mature here.
See, that's the thing that, I get, right? Zeldin is running a primary, and I get it. So he wants Republicans to vote for him. But all of this, Democrats are watching this too. And I'll ask you, if you're watching this, Do you think there's any chance that the Democrats that you know are going to vote for Lee Zeldin? They're not voting for him. I live in New York City. They're not voting Lee Zeldin. Democrats will stay home first. They just go like, this doesn't matter. They will stay home before they vote for this guy. No way. They'll stay home first.
Guys, come on, let's talk about the issues that are important to New Yorkers. Enough of this.
Right. In terms of Mr. Bragg,
Finish your thought.
in terms of Mr. Bragg, I've been very clear. He has been a disgrace in the office, and I would fire him day one. I have an op-ed in the New York Post saying
he's day one in now too. Astorino, everybody's day one in. You got to do something with day one now.
that. It is true that 2 years ago I gave him a donation. Now I have given millions of dollars in political contributions over 20 years.
Now, see, he's messing up. The problem with Harry Wilson is he doesn't like Trump, but he also doesn't see the skill that people like Trump have, right? Now, you may not like Trump. I get it. I didn't vote for Trump. Obviously, I'm a libertarian. I voted libertarian every time. So I get it. But I can still respect the skill set that Trump had. When they got Trump on this, because Trump gave money to everybody. Trump literally said, yeah, I gave money to everybody because I wanted to influence them all. So I gave money to everybody. Democrat, Republican, didn't matter. If I thought they were going to win, they got money because I wanted to have influence over them. I know how this system works. I'm going to fix the swamp. And America was like, that makes total sense. Oh my God. That's what Wilson should be doing. But Wilson doesn't follow Trump. So he doesn't understand how to think that way. What Wilson should be doing now is going, yeah, I gave to him because I wanted to have control over him too, because I'm rich and I own politicians. Republicans ate that up when Trump said it. Wilson doesn't know that because he hasn't followed Trump. Now, you do see what Zeldin's doing. Zeldin's followed Trump. That's why he's doing the nickname, the Rolex Rob and the Never Trumper, ba-boom. He's not hitting Giuliani that hard because Giuliani's a hardcore Trumpster also. So he's not hitting Giuliani that hard. It's not a bad move.
99.9% of those are conservative Republicans. Mr. Astorino, I've given money to Mr. Zeldin. I've given money to Rudy Giuliani, not yet to Andrew, but maybe someday. But in that long list, there is 4 Democrats that I've known for 30 years, and Mr. Zeldin tries to make that a capital offense. Why? Because he is distracting from his own record.
Bad judgment.
He spent 4 years supporting Andrew Cuomo.
I'd like to answer the
I've
question.
given 4 tiny donations to people I've known for 30 years.
Tiny donations. I bet those donations were 5 figures each. I'm not joking. I bet those donations were 5 figures each.
It's not comparable. That's why
I'm calling you, Harry, when this is over.
Mr. Giuliani.
You need to give me one of them tiny donations.
Mr. Giuliani, you are calling for this constitutional amendment regarding moving district attorneys out. Can you tell us what the steps are that would make that happen for a constitutional amendment to take place?
I was the first gubernatorial candidate, Maurice, to call for this. I called for it right after his January 3rd memo to the district, to his assistant district attorneys. I was the first one to call. You can look on the record right here. And it's actually Article 8, Section 13B of the New York State Constitution. So for me, when I look at this, I think it's very clear.
Mr. Giuliani, what's the process? How does that work? We know you stand for it, but how does it work? How would it work?
Yeah, well, the governor on day one can invoke Article 8, Section.
He's doing that on day one too. He's invoking articles now. Woo! He has a busy Giuliani. You're gonna have to like sleep for a week when you're done, because you better get sworn in at like midnight. 12:01. You gonna get, because you got a long day. You're doing everything day. You can do like day one and like sleep for like a month. You're gonna be good.
Section 13B of the New York State Constitution. Anybody
that's
can
not what
look
I'm
that
referring
up.
to. I'm
It
referring to the
clearly
way
says
the
right there.
voters would get
what
the
he said.
opportunity to have this constitutional amendment changed for them to be able to remove their local.
Now, this is not unfair. They're bugging him and saying, please tell me the process, the exact process to have a constitutional amendment. That's not fair. A lot of people don't know. I couldn't give you the details either. They didn't push the Democrats on this. This is people saying, see, you Republicans are stupid. This is media bias right here, blatant media bias right here, right? Why would you push him on this thing? Not required. All he has to know is, and he can know this, he can initiate the process in the assembly. That's true. You have to initiate the process. The governor cannot call for a constitutional amendment. He has to initiate the process in the assembly. That much I know. They're like, what's the specific thing? Why? Why is that? I don't have to know that. That's why I have staff to figure that out. I have to start it in the assembly. That I know. And I think anybody would know that.
DA, how does that work?
Yeah, well, I said very clearly on this that I think this is something that should be a ballot amendment that we should have on there, so that way locality can vote for recount, like we were talking about San Francisco over here as we saw this.
As governor, how would you get an amendment on the ballot? What's the
How
process?
would we get an amendment on the ballot?
What's
we
the
would
process?
we would go through the legislative process on this.
What
with
is
the
the
true.
Assembly
legislative
and the
process?
state Senate.
And how dare her ask, what is the legislative process? You're not asking anybody else that. That is just, they're just trying to beat him up. That's not fair. That's not fair. Giuliani, punch back.
And it would take ultimately 2 different sessions to actually get this through. So that's how it actually works in Albany to get this done over here. I understand what you're trying to do, but if you let me actually answer the question rather than try to trap me into this, if this is a actual Assembly and state Senate process, but I would push for this as governor. But what I would do, as we don't have recall actually on the New York State Constitution right.
You see his filler is actually. That's his filler. Right? So when he's nervous, he falls back to actually. Some of these guys got to get better at this, right? If you notice, my filler is silence. I just say nothing. It's a much stronger filler.
Right now is I would remove him on day 1. And
he said day 1. Why are you not hearing him? This is his day 1 is going to be the busiest day in the history of governors.
Would invoke, like I said, Article 8, Section 13B of the New York
13B, he said, not A and not C. 13B. Clear your ears out.
State Constitution. When I think about our war on police and everything that they have.
And war on cops. Let's not forget that. Also day 1. Right? War on cops. Don't forget. By the way, I may not know how this amendment thing works, but I do love cops, so don't you ever forget that.
Through over the last couple of years, it breaks my heart as a New Yorker that has a young daughter. I don't want New Yorkers to continue to think about having to move to other places to be safe.
That's what I'm saying. How are you going to fix the amendment? Who knows? But man, I love cops.
The game plan to actually make New York the safest state in the country again. It wasn't that far long ago, Marcia. You remember when New York was such a safe place, but look.
Look at that face. She's like, you don't make me.
This is obviously a legislative thing, but I will use my power as governor to make sure we can do everything we possibly can to utilize the legislature and push them.
As we move forward, our question. Go ahead.
I was going to say that we're going to move forward with domestic terrorism, and from now on, all question answers will be 30 seconds because we're running out of
terrorism. Okay.
This first question is going to you, Mr. Astorino. Domestic terrorism is a huge problem in this country and hitting close to home with the Buffalo shootings.
Buffalo
what
shooting sucks.
What are your ideas to protect New Yorkers from domestic terrorism?
Uh-oh. How are you going to protect New Yorkers from domestic terrorism? All right. The Democrats all going to be like, all the guns, ghost guns, magic guns, all the guns got to go. Nobody gets a gun. You got to be 85 to buy a gun. That's all the Democrats going to say. Republicans going to say, put more guns in schools. Guns, guns, guns. They're going to be the opposite, right? Am I right? More cops, more guns. Is that right? No one's talking about the actual problem. That's my guess. Okay.
And should there be limits to what can be posted on social media? 30 seconds.
Should there be limits? What's posted on social media? Okay. Oh, you see Astorino's face? Like, what? Yeah, okay. Astorino's good. Okay, we're good on this one. Astorino, nice. Now, look at Lee trying to get into a Zen space. He's like, they're going to attack me. I'm going to get them. I am going to get these guys. Watch.
Domestic terrorism is also the bombing of a pro-life center in Amherst, New York. And that person needs to be charged as a domestic terrorist as well. We need to get very tough on criminals. That always is the case, but it's not happening.
That's not okay. Of the domestic terrorism, of those things, of all of those, every single one of these people, every one of them, they either get caught there, die there, or turn themselves in. All of them either are dead or go to prison for life. Why do you require any tough on crime? You don't have to be tough on crime. They're dead or they give themselves up either there or later and they go to jail forever. That's every single time. What else can you do besides kill them or put them in prison forever? This is the thing they keep doing. Lee Zeldin said the same thing. Buffalo shooter, we need death penalty. The 10 people are dead already. They have no answers. Again, Democrats, bad ideas. Republicans, no ideas.
In New York, charges are being dropped. We're coddling criminals.
No one's dropping the charges of domestic terrorists. That's not happening. What are you talking about?
We're turning the other way. We're saying, do what you want to do. Don't worry about it here in New York. We've got to get tough on criminals, and I will. I had to
Should
run a
there be
police
limits on
department in
social media
Westchester County.
postings?
What's that?
Should there be limits on social media postings?
I
Please say
think
no.
we got to be really careful when we start
Okay,
putting limits
good.
on
All
the
right,
First
good.
Amendment
Okay.
and who's going to define hate speech.
Thank you.
That's not something, that's not a
Okay.
rat hole I think we should be going down.
Mr. Wilson.
Okay, good answer.
Yeah, I too worry about constraints of the First Amendment. I think the focus should be on people we know are a problem: criminals, mentally ill who have violent tendencies, and people who are purveyors of hate. Those are the three primary drivers of the problems, including the tragedy in Buffalo. And that's what we're doing a terrible job on because we have ineffective
Purveyors of
politicians
hate.
running our state. So that's where I would focus. That's what we need to focus
That's not an
Mr.
answer.
Giuliani.
No answer again.
Oh, when I look at this,
Okay, come on. You got to say more cops. You have to say more cops.
you know, every single question that seems to be the answer for the left on this is go after our Second Amendment rights and our First Amendment rights.
He's right.
If we want to actually look at the answer on
Nice.
this, then why don't we repeal Section 230? Because then you're not going to have actually a leftist organization like a Twitter have a think tank that's going to come in and actually take a look at speech. You're going to have
Keep
the
hearing
general
actually.
counsels do that. And then when you do that, you end up taking the conservative or liberal out of this stuff. Look, the answer is more speech, not less speech, Marcia. And the
That's okay. It's not a bad answer. At least he was forward on it. That's not bad.
fact that Governor Hochul's first instinct is to go after our Second and First
not
Amendment
wrong.
is really scary for law-abiding New Yorkers.
Mr. Zeldin.
He didn't answer the other one. He only answered the free speech
You
one.
can't infringe on the First Amendment. You have to protect First Amendment rights, and you can't infringe upon that. That has to be the gold standard. And when you talk domestic terrorism, right now you just had somebody go to Justice Kavanaugh's house,
He's not wrong.
targeting him and his family. And whether it's the attacks in Portland, targeting a courthouse, or taking over city streets in Seattle, or the riots that we saw right
Tell me
here
death
in
penalty.
New York City.
Tough on crime.
All across our entire country, we've seen domestic terrorism. And if we want to be honest about this conversation, we have to tackle all of this, not just what's convenient for the narrative.
Okay.
No,
Mr. Zeldin,
not one of
thank
them
you.
answered.
This question is for you as well. Some school districts have incorporated
But then again, I got to tell you, Giuliani did not say cops that time. He's probably mad right now. He's like, I haven't said cop. I haven't said how much I love cops in like 2 questions.
Asian American history into their school
Asian American
curriculum. Since this is Pride Month, and in the interest of being more inclusive, should New York school districts incorporate LGBTQ history?
Oh, no, you
into
touching
their
a button.
curriculums?
Watch this. They're going to be like, groomers. Oh, my God, watch.
Well, first off, I don't think that that material that's in class that's not age appropriate is ever right. Of all kinds, of all sorts. I remember having a health class in the 11th grade. There's material being taught to our kids earlier right now that is not age appropriate, and I do not support that.
So you shouldn't talk about sex to 11th grade? Oh, look, I get you don't want the little babies. I got you. But you could do more than 11th grade, right? I mean, we could find a happy medium somewhere, like, I don't know, 8th grade, something. I get 3rd graders. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you on the 3rd graders. I'm with you. But 11th grade? We can find something in the middle, can't we?
I do believe that the material inside the classroom shouldn't be divisive, whether it's critical race theory or whatever else you want to call it. We have kids who are getting along just fine until that agenda comes into the classroom. I do not believe that the classrooms in New York State should be used to advance an agenda that is not age appropriate. Let
Didn't answer the question at all.
parents deal with this at home. Parents have a fundamental right to
No. This is where he's wrong. I don't want parents dealing with this at home unless parents want to homeschool. Parents should have more control over their local schools. That's what you should be doing. Parents should have more. I talk about it all the time. You've got to support local school districts so parents have more control, support private schools, and support home schools. This way, if you want to give your kid critical race theory or whatever you want to, you can without enforcing on others. If you want to make sure your kid doesn't teach it, doesn't learn it, you can wait till your kid's in 8th or 10th grade or whatever's appropriate. You can do what you feel's right for. You can do you. That's the right answer. The problem here is the governor shouldn't be deciding this. The entire question is faulty. The governor should not be deciding this. Local school districts and the governor supports private and homeschooling so that you can teach your kid the things that you think are important in your kid's life when you think they're important. Why is that so crazy?
control the upbringing of their child, and they don't relinquish that right by sending their kids off to school.
Same question, Mr. Giuliani.
When I think about this, I look at a bill that a gentleman who was in New York just yesterday actually passed in Florida called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. Look, the truth is, as the father of a young daughter, I'm concerned with how we've brought sexualization into the classroom at such a young age. I too believe that it's so important that parents take
the question wasn't at a young age. They all just went right there. They went right there. They were like, you're giving 2-year-olds. That's not what he said. Just should you change the curriculum? And my point is, the question itself is faulty. The governor shouldn't be deciding curriculum. The Board of Regents should not be deciding that. Locally, you should be deciding that so that you can decide what is age appropriate. I think you can decide that for your kid. I have a crazy idea. Most parents don't want to hurt their kids. I know, it's nuts. They don't want to do that.
Lead in education, and that includes sex education. I remember when this used to be called health. And to me, I think it's so important that we get back to that. Look, we lost a certain level of morality in our state. And as governor, I would do everything I possibly could to make sure that parents, yes, parents, are the primary stakeholders in our kids' education.
Thank you. Mr. Astorino, same question.
Well, I remember a health class. Yeah, we would watch the film and everyone would giggle a little bit and that was it. But our parents talked to us. Now, you know, if somebody drives up to a playground with a white van and tries to pull kids over and talk sex to them, they'd be arrested. However, now we're being taught that in our schools, our 5-year-olds. How are we having a...
Did I miss it? Did I miss what he said? He didn't say 5-year-olds. Did he just said school curriculum? Isn't that what, wasn't that the question? They all jumped to 5-year-olds and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't be. Yes, I'm with you. And then Lee's like 11th grade. I mean, we got to find something between 5-year-olds and 11th grade, don't we?
Debate in this country whether sex should be taught to 5-year-olds. It is completely inappropriate. So too is critical race theory, where they are dividing people by class, by color.
Not wrong.
This stuff has to be tamed and stopped, and I will, because it's totally unacceptable here in New York.
Same question, Mr. Wilson.
So, Maurice, education is one of the most important issues. It's the great equalizer. It's how I was able to go from being a working class kid, immigrant family in Johnstown to Harvard, and then on to great business success. So it's a hugely important issue, but respectfully, the issues you're focused on are not the most important issues.
Yes, you know what? But they're all yelling groomers, so you better say something. But you're right? It is the most important, because you should be giving this down to local school districts so that you shouldn't be worrying about it anymore.
Most important issues are, I would say, twofold. We need to reinvigorate civics education. We need to make sure our kids are being taught that they live in the greatest country in the face of the earth, and that socialism failed, and that because we've neglected the basics, our kids are not learning what they need to learn to be good citizens. The second piece is we need a curricular reboot. We had an entire generation of kids destroyed by 2 years of COVID and remote learning. We need to reboot them to get them on a path over the next 3 to 5 years to catch up.
That's better.
The learning loss that took place because of bad policies over the last 2 years.
That's a better answer.
Our final segment here is called In One Word, and we're going to ask you questions. Please give us one-word answers.
We got the music.
We're going to start here
put the music
with Mr.
on.
Giuliani. Name a secret skill or talent.
Definitely not karaoke.
What?
Okay, we'll leave it blank.
Secret.
People don't know I'm a black belt. I actually once won the world championships in sparring. Not something that I've ever mentioned publicly before.
That's the first. Mr. Wilson.
Blackjack.
Blackjack.
Mr. Astorino.
Yo seré el gobernador para todos los New York.
Okay, you speak Spanish every time you can. That's not secret, right? That's not secret. Do I have a secret one? Well, you recently saw that I actually can play some baseball, because I showed that I can pitch, and decent hitter, not a great hitter, but decent pitcher. And I'm a very good Dungeons and Dragon dungeon master. Very few people know that, but I am a very good dungeon master. Yes, I can both play a sport and be a geek. There is my secret.
I speak Spanish.
Okay. Mr. Zeldin.
I also speak some German, which is kind of weird, I know.
What do you think people notice most about you?
Notice
Integrity.
most.
I'm in my 20th year right
No one notices your integrity. You liar. You liar. They notice my integrity. No, they don't. Stop. No. They notice you're always mad at people.
now.
One
in the
word.
United States
One
Army.
word. One word.
Honor, integrity.
One word. Honor, integrity. That's one word, I guess. No.
Mr. Wilson.
My family, my wife, and 4 daughters.
Mr. Astorino.
Honesty.
Mr. Giuliani.
Passion.
He's right. Giuliani's right. Passion. Yes. Yes. I don't know. What do people about me? I got to answer the question too, don't I? All right, hold on. Let me see if I can get this here.
Check.
All right.
Mr.
Hold on.
Astorino.
Whoa,
Yo
what's the
seré el
question?
gobernador para todos los neoyorquinos. I speak Spanish.
Okay. Mr. Zeldin, what do you think people notice most about you?
What do people notice
Integrity.
most
I'm in my
about
20th
me?
year right now.
One
in the
word.
United States
One
Army.
word.
One word they notice most
Honor,
about me.
integrity.
Mr. Wilson,
My family, my wife, and 4 daughters.
Mr. Astorino,
I think that I speak
Honestly.
quickly.
Mr. Giuliani.
So fast talk. I'm gonna say fast
Mr.
talk.
Wilson, yoga or spin?
Yoga spin.
Weightlifting, but if I had to pick between those two, I'd say spin.
I like running, so I will go spin because I like to run. So I'm gonna go spin.
Mr. Zeldin.
Honestly, I've never done spin, and I did yoga once.
I've done
and I
spinning
decided
before.
Never to do that one again.
What's your workout?
I've
of
done
choice?
spin before.
I like to do push-ups, sit-ups, run.
No, you don't, you liar.
I like to hit weights when they're available.
All right, Mr. Giuliani.
Eating
Yoga-
a lot
yoga
of New
or
York
spin?
pizza.
New York
Been
pizza, that's my
workout on the
man.
Campaign trail.
No yoga, no spin.
Definitely a little spin. A little spin, maybe.
Okay, Mr. Astorino.
Don't make me pick yoga or spin. Basketball.
Okay, Mr. Astorino, what's your favorite smell?
Smell?
Smell. My favorite smell. That is a tough one. Favorite smell. I think my favorite smell. I like the smell of meat, seasoned meat cooking. I do. I like the smell of seasoned meat cooking, like on a barbecue or grill. I do like that. That's a smell that I enjoy. I like that smell. Yeah, I think that, and sometimes I think most of the smells I like are food. So like sometimes cookies being baked. I like that too.
Smell.
Smell.
My wife's hair.
That's
Okay,
I
Mr.
wouldn't
Giuliani,
say
your
that.
favorite
I'd be
smell.
lying.
Well, it's definitely not the homeless that have come on the street of New York.
Oh, he is cracking jokes. All right.
You know what? I think it's that fresh dew in the morning when you walk outside.
Mr.
It's not bad.
Zeldin, your favorite smell?
Victory, November 8th.
Victory November smells like victory. Oh, stop! And your apocalypse now. You're such a hack. Ah, boo. You know what that smell was? For those who don't know, Apocalypse Now, what he's saying, it was napalm. Yes, napalm that we used to drop on people in Vietnam. It's a jellied gas, right? And so it's jelly and gasoline that's on fire. So it sticks to people and burns you. That's napalm. If you remember the movie Apocalypse Now, he literally is, they're napalming the entire place. And the guy says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory. Well, we didn't win that war anyway, but that's fine. He likes napalm.
Mr. Wilson.
My wife's perfume.
Ooh.
Mr.
hacks.
Giuliani, beverage of choice.
Beverage of choice. Clearly coffee. If you know me, it's coffee.
It's Coke Zero.
Mr. Zeldin.
I find myself drinking a lot of Gatorade during the day.
Mr. Wilson.
Coffee.
Coffee. There we go.
Mr. Astorino.
I like a nice IPA beer.
So, Mr. Zeldin, where is your thinking place?
Thinking place.
At home with my wife.
Look at that.
Mr.
hack.
Wilson?
My office.
Yeah, I like my office or any place where I'm alone and I can pace.
Mr. Astorino?
At home.
Mr. Giuliani, your thinking place?
It's been the campaign car the last year.
Do you have any crypto investments? Mr. Wilson.
I do.
My daughter does, but I do not.
I do have crypto investments. Yes.
Mr. Zeldin.
I don't.
Mr.
Guys
Giuliani,
are
crypto
boomers.
investments.
I do, but I wish it was more.
There we go. See, not a boomer.
Mr. Astorino.
Not yet, but I will. And
You guys are all boomers. You should have crypto. Showing you.
So, Mr. Astorino, do you use TikTok? And if not, what is your social media of choice?
Oh, I love
You know
TikTok.
he does.
Please go to @RobAstorino
Yep.
because I like to have a lot of fun on TikTok.
Mr. Wilson?
No to TikTok, Facebook.
Yeah, but you got like 9 people on Facebook, Wilson. You're not killing it. You know, yeah.
Mr. Zeldin?
No, as a member of Congress, because of the CCP and the CFIUS investigation, I've stayed off of TikTok. But on other social media, @Lee Zeldin.
Mr. Giuliani?
Truth Social.
Of course you said that. Yes, you did. Of course you said Truth Social. Giuliani. Mask is always off with that guy. He's never got a mask on.
Andrew H. Giuliani.
Where'd you meet your spouse, Mr. Wilson?
I met mine in high school.
College.
Mr. Zeldin.
Washington, D.C., right after a military wedding. And I asked her for a phone number. She gave me her email address. Apparently, she did want to stay in touch.
Mr. Giuliani.
People won't believe it, but Yankee Stadium at Derek Jeter's last home game.
That's a
And Mr.
cool
Astorino,
story.
Where'd you meet your spouse?
Pete's Saloon in Elmsford. She was my waitress. I tipped her well, and the rest is history.
So,
Sure, that's a good story.
Mr. Astorino, when was the last time you wore a costume?
Why are they asking these questions? Are they trying to make them look stupid? I don't get it. I'm not sure what the questions are for.
And what did you dress as?
Last time I wore a costume, I wear a costume almost every Halloween when I take my kids out. So I usually do wear a costume. I think the last time the costume I had was, I mean, I actually have pictures of it on my Facebook. Was it a vampire? I think it was a vampire or something. I don't remember. I think it was vampire.
Costume.
It's Halloween.
Batman when I was little for Halloween.
Yeah.
Can't think of one recently.
How come you don't hang out? And by the way, I am on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter. And my one of choice right now is probably Twitter. It's growing the fastest for me. It's probably Twitter.
Mr. Wilson?
Halloween and Clark Kent with the shirt open for Superman.
Mr. Zeldin?
I had reserve duty last month, so I was
Oh,
in that
stop
suit, which
being
I
a
like wearing
smack.
a lot more than this one.
And Mr. Giuliani, last time you wore a costume?
I think the last Halloween costume, I was a Notre Dame quarterback.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Gentlemen, thank you. We want to thank you for being good sports right there. And we want to thank you for a spirited.
That was interesting, I would say. Kind of. That was interesting. So, yes. Different, though, if you noticed. It was not the same as the Democratic one. It was different. If you guys like it, please like, comment, and share. It does matter. You know, I always ask you. The only way I get around all the shadow banning is if you guys like, comment, and share. It does absolutely matter tremendously. And, of course, also, check out my sponsors, libertarianism.com. Please go there and share this to the best of your ability. I know many of you have been there before, but it makes my sponsor happy when you share it more so other people can go there. It does matter tremendously, so please do that if you can. If you want to support me on my campaign, no worries. LarrySharpe.com/donate. If you want to buy some cool merch, /shop. Or if you want to volunteer, Any of those work any way you like it. It is important. What I think I saw more this time is, again, what I've been saying. The Democrats did answer questions, but they really just give terrible answers. What Democrats will do well, though, I think you'll find Democrats do well, is they will very often explain the actual problem well. They'll explain, here's the problem. And then they'll have some terrible, and let's just throw more money or more government stuff or more taxes. They'll just do that, I think, more than anything else. But the Republicans just did a lot of individual attacks on individual people, broad-based concepts, but really no actual plans. I stand by what I say. Democrats are the party of bad ideas. Republicans are the party of no ideas. Nothing, no one's going to fix this state if we don't have a third party, if we don't have another answer here to at least be heard. It's just not going to work. It's really tough. It's really tough. So, yes. We'll grab a couple of comments if I can. You guys got to give me a lot of comments. Let me grab some of these. Tim O'Connor says, Harry Wilson will throw your cars in the ocean to help the economy. That's how dedicated he is. Cash for clunkers. Yes, Tim O'Connor, you are correct. Absolutely. Christopher says, that's the NIST. Check it out on LarrySharpe.com. That's right. The NYSST is the New York State Social Trust. That's how you raise money so you cannot cut taxes, eliminate taxes, which is what I'm trying to achieve. And why wouldn't I lower taxes versus eliminate taxes? Because if you eliminate taxes, it is much harder to bring them back. Can you? You can. But if you lower taxes, then someone will raise them somehow. And they make it very convoluted so you won't know who's getting raised. They'll tell you only people whose name is Phil will raise their taxes. But if your name's not Phil, you don't lose your taxes, whatever. They'll say that kind of thing and raise the taxes. What I'm saying is I want to eliminate taxes. Now someone has to bring back an entire tax. Can it be done? Yes, but a whole lot harder. And that's what I want. That's the issue. So Daniel says, repeal the SAFE Act for law-abiding people and stop making deals with criminals, them to the ground. Well, the problem is We wouldn't have to make deals with criminals if we stopped arresting people who shouldn't be arrested. So 2 things. SAFE Act should be removed. You're completely correct. And I've talked about how we could do it in 2 years. 2 years, we could end the SAFE Act. It'll take 2 years, though. And the reason is right now, particularly after Buffalo, New York State, the vast majority of New York State people still want the SAFE Act. So there's no political will to get rid of it. So you have to get political will, which means non-enforcement of the SAFE Act while solving other problems so that people can see there's no change, Daniel, with the SAFE Act, and we can then get rid of it. So it'll take 2 years before we can do it. And we're making deals with criminals because our court system is filled. Why? Because we're arresting people still to this day for things like weed charges and stuff. We're arresting people for non-victim crimes. Let's stop that. There'll be less people in the system. We won't have to make any deals. So yes. All right. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see here. Shelly says we're running on debt and deficit right now. 100%. How do you save money when the amount of money is a negative number? Yes, that's why you have to raise money from other sources that I keep bringing up, right? The NIST is 1, but also, as I mentioned before, sponsorships is 2, leasing naming rights is 3. You start raising money. Remember, you might say, Larry, I mean, how can these companies pay? There are many mega corporations out there that are almost, if not already, trillion-dollar companies. Trillion. Their marketing budgets are in the multiple billions. Yeah, good enough for them, and we're starting to pay off some debt. Absolutely, 100%. It can be done. Yes. All righty. Let's see here. If I can grab this one. Let's see here. Andrew says, I'm surprised Andrew Giuliani didn't talk about his support with cops while answering the question. I know almost every single one of those, right? Almost every single one of them, he said it was somehow and cops and cops and cops, almost always. William says, is Giuliani the same son that tried to upstage his father on mayoral inauguration day doing crazy face and dances? Yes, that is the same one, William. The same one. He actually loves that. He's actually proud of that. If you ask him, I've met Andrew several times when we're out campaigning, and he's proud of that. He will happily. Yes. Happy with that. Yes, absolutely. Shelley says, make Planned Parenthood tell the truth instead of marketing abortion. Women have the right to make an informed decision. I agree with you, Shelley. And I'm not, to be forward, some people don't like when I say this, I'm not against Planned Parenthood. I think Planned Parenthood has every right to exist as a nonprofit. It just shouldn't be government funded, right? It should not be a government funded nonprofit. If you care about Planned Parenthood and you want to write a check to that nonprofit, you should be able to. Absolutely. Your choice. If you think it's the right answer, please write a check to them. I think it's a good idea. Government should not be paying taxpayer money, should not be going to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood can exist as a nonprofit and let it fight like any other nonprofit to do what it needs to do for the people who want to support it. I have no problem with that. It can exist as a nonprofit. So yes, I hope that, but you're right. They absolutely should be. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Daniel says, bail reform bullcrap, get rid of that and nail the bad guys to the ground. And what the heck with making body armor vests illegal? Guess what I put one of my 10-year-old book bag because school's not safe. Yeah, a couple parts. One, bail reform itself, the idea is actually a good idea. The enforcement was terrible. And I was talking about how we fix it. We fix it by doing one thing, Daniel, focusing on first-time offenders. If you just focus on first-time offenders, the problems are solved. All the guys who've been out multiple times, they're not first-time offenders, right? That's the point. What I don't want, what I want bail reform to do is not have some kid who either was in the wrong place, wrong time, made one mistake, have their life ruined because of something dumb or wrong place, wrong time. So instead, focus on first-time offenders. This is your first time getting in trouble? We'll be lenient. It's your first-time offense. The odds are you might be able to get yourself back in action. You've been arrested 6 times. You beat up your girlfriend. You robbed a liquor store. Why are you out? That's the issue. You can solve that. And making body armor illegal is so wrong. I don't know what to say. It's so, the guy in Buffalo, the cop who in Buffalo, he was killed by the bad guy who had body armor on, and he didn't. And we're going to make body armor illegal. Wow, is that stupid? Then you were 100% correct. Wow, is that stupid? Terrible. The HTS disciple says, day one, Andrew. Yes, everything's day one. Absolutely. Day one, 100%. Yes, absolutely. So, John says, how about you offer the city workers a state job? That's the issue, right? The reason why that is not going to work well is because when I don't want to improve this, I don't want to increase the state budget, number one. But two, some agencies, they're just doing things at the city, right? So I can't give a state job to, say, a city sanitation worker, right? I'm not going to give a state sanitation job. It's not going to work. So I may not need them. So I want to make things right. I want to offer the people their jobs back for the state, see if I can encourage the mayor to do so, to offer it back. And some people don't want the job, right? They moved on already. I want to make them whole some way, right? That's what I really want to do. If I do that, I think that's a much better way of making things happen if I can. So yes. All right. Tim says, on day one, I will declare the government to be more efficient. Lee Zeldin. That's all it takes, Tim. That's all it takes. Absolutely. Yes. So Brandon says, Giuliani's better than Hochul. Yeah, but that's not really a high bar, Brandon. I'm just saying, you're not wrong. I'm just saying that's not a high bar, right? Like the lowest bar of all of them, is de Blasio as mayor of New York. De Blasio was the worst mayor. Like literally the guy off the street who just showed up, that guy's a better mayor than de Blasio was. But Hochul, while better than de Blasio, like literally I would take Hochul over de Blasio. That's how bad de Blasio was. It's still not a very high bar. It's like de Blasio and then like Hochul's like laying on top of him. You're trying to get over that. It's not that big of a deal. So, but yes, you're not wrong. So if I was in New York, I'd vote for that. Thank you, my friend. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate it. Yes. Yes. Scott says speeding tickets are part of the government's racketeering scheme to get money for a local government. 100% yes. Using law enforcement as a profit center is absolutely a key aspect of, and one of the big damages here is we have what's called unfunded mandates in New York State, where we force local governments to pay for things that we tell them to pay from the state level, but don't give them money. So most of their budget's already spent. So then how do they fix things, do new things? They have to use law enforcement as a profit center. And that's what they do. You're completely right. Speeding tickets and the like, things like that. So yes, absolutely. Danny says, oof, two-time Obama. That'll show him. That's an insult, Danny. That's a double punch right there, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Scott says, I like watching Larry Sharpe giving a review of these debates. Thank you. I'm trying to, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying to show you what's really going on. And when you see me eventually, hopefully one day in these debates, you'll see how I act. Hopefully I won't do the things that I say they're doing. So yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Let's see here. If I keep going down here, guys, you give me so many of them. I want to grab a couple of these if I could. So Jim says, why does Ashburn want to be the sacrificial lamb again? Jim, because he actually couldn't. They call him Rolex Rob as a joke, saying like he went down to, get rich and that kind of thing down in the Wall Street. He didn't do as well as he wanted to do. So he's back doing this thing now. That's why. I don't know. He was the sacrificial lamb in 2014. He got his butt kicked. 2018, they got their butt kicked there, and they got their butt kicked here in 2022. There's no way. There's no way that the Republicans going to win in this state. You watching that and knowing Democrats and knowing we're 3-1 Democrat to Republican in New York State, they're not winning, right? Like you're aware that's not happening. That's it. So yes. And then Jim goes on to say, but as long as it's age appropriate, it's okay to teach an agenda. Thank you, Jim. It shouldn't have been about age. It is okay to teach an agenda as long as the local parents are okay with that agenda. I'm not against an agenda. I'm against you getting the agenda that you don't want your kid to learn. If you don't want your kid to get an agenda at all, vote for no agendas. I'm okay with this, right? We teach our kids what we want anyway in our homes. And it's an agenda, Jim. You teach your kid the things that you want your kid to know. And you're kind of supposed to do that. That's kind of your job, right? I don't know if you have kids, assuming you have kids. So perfect point, right? It's okay to teach an agenda if it's the one that you want. Totally fine. Teach your kids what you want, as you should. So yes. Grace says, Larry, your answer too intelligent and thoughtful for some stupid soundbite or talking point. Sometimes that's true. That is sometimes true, which is why you have to shorten it. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Honor, integrity. Oh, it's one word, Andrew. Thank you. I didn't realize it was. I like that. Yes. That's good. So, Michelle Ann likes fresh cut grass in the spring. I do too. However, it sometimes triggers my allergies. It does sometimes do that. Yes. So yes. Jesse says original Old Spice smells like my grandfather. That's actually cute. I like that. It's actually cute. Wood burning stoves. You know, I do like burning smells sometimes. That make me weird, but yes, I do like that sometimes. Yes. So Shelly liked water. Yes, you know, everyone knows I'm a coffee guy. Absolutely. Yes. Brian says, I'm surprised that them said ass as they all have their heads up someone's. Sometimes their own. So yes, absolutely. That's good. I like that. But Brenda also says Ashwin has a very funny TikTok. So there we go. Maybe you could watch some TikTok for him. That's okay. We're all good with that. Yes, that's good. All right. When's the last time Justin Trudeau wore blackface? Probably last week. He's probably wearing it now. Just say it. Probably is. So yes. All right. That's good. So, all right. So if I can grab this. John says, Larry Sharpe for governor. Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah. And Shelly says, Trudeau's probably in blackface as we speak. Shelly, you were reading my mind. I was thinking the same thing. You were reading my mind. Absolutely. Yes. That's good. So I love that. All right, guys, let me grab one more of these if I could. Dan says, I figured out a long time ago that when Republicans say they want a small government, that just means they want to spend the same money on government contractors rather than government employees. Sometimes true. The same money is spent. It's not in the same vein when a libertarian says they want smaller government, meaning the government is not in that enterprise anymore. Nicely done, Dan. That is awesome. That is a great, yes, 100%. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm glad. Daniel says, family court's also a profit center. I wish that wasn't true, Daniel, but you are right. This makes me so angry. Some of you may not know, family court system, when you are making your payments go through the state, and the state takes a cut, just like a credit card company. And judges are actually judged based upon how much money they bring in. Embarrassingly bad. Our family court system is a disaster, Daniel. You are correct. No one talks about it but me. I'm the only one with a plan for it. No one even talks about it. You are absolutely correct. Absolutely true. Guys, I will say thank you so much for today. I hope you all will like, comment, and share. Support me if you can over at LarrySharpe.com. Either shop if you want to shop there, get some cool merch. Donate if you can donate, or sign up to volunteer. That would help. And of course, support my sponsor. I bug you about it every time. Please support it. It does matter. Libertarianism.com. Click that link. Head over there. Share it in your social media so others will share it too. It does matter. It helps tremendously. So thank you so much for that. Guys, I want to say thank you so much. I will see you all